Hello and welcome to the B&B show. My name is Brandon Kane, of course, and this man here to my left is going to be Seahawks Brendan Nelson back on in the house here. We missed each other last week as I was traveling out there to the Senior Bowl getting that stuff done, but good to have a chance here to chop it up with you, Brendan. How you feeling, brother?
Life is good. Life is good. This is about as good as it gets. If you're doing what we do, this it can't beat this, right? You can't ask for more.
This is the ultimate. This is what we definitely seek out, and doing it for a couple of years, it's been very satisfying for me. I'm sure it has for you. What kind of rolled through your head as the clock wound down to the Rams game and you finish up? You go get the win. What was kind of the thing that jumped out to you as you were leaving that game?
Well, it shows you how special a team this is because I don't think things really went according to plan in that game. We did not play very well defensively, and we didn't really run the ball that well, but you still won the game. This is a team that's built to play defense and run the ball, and you would assume that if they get into a game against another really good team and those two things don't get it done, you're going to lose and probably lose bad. But that happened on last Sunday. Now it's 10 days ago, for an eternity ago. But none of those things really worked, and they still found a way to win because their passing attack, which has been questioned by many people in the last couple of months, just clicked in and played almost perfectly. And that's how you know when you have a special team. Everything goes wrong based on what the plan probably was, and you still win. So that's how you know you've really got something going here. And when you look at something like that, it's hard to believe that this team is going to allow themselves to lose. Like, if they can win that game with that many things not working that they probably went into that game expecting to work, you got to like their chances against pretty much anybody. But that was the main thing for me. Like Sam Darnold had to put the team on his back in that game, and that was something we hadn't seen from Sam Darnold in some weeks, especially against a good team. So it's just a reminder that this team can beat you so many different ways. That was the main thing I took away from that.
It's always, too, where I've taken a little bit of umbrage with Sam Darnold being referenced as purely this game manager, that he sort of is getting thrown into the category of your Trent Dilfers and Brad Johnsons in this trajectory he's had throughout this year. And I just think that he's more than that, and that type of game showed that he's more than that, and that those guys couldn't have posted that type of game in that type of situation, in my opinion. Would you agree with
that? Maybe Brad Johnson. I'm a Brad Johnson fan. I'm a big Brad Johnson guy. That guy... people forget how good he was. Trent Dilfer, yeah, that's a different story. But I'm a Brad Johnson.
You think a Brad Johnson could have his Tampa Bay defense fail him and no run game in a conference championship and then get that team to the Super Bowl?
I'm a Brad Johnson believer, man. That's my boy. Like, I'm not taking any Brad Johnson slander here. That was always my guy back in the day. But yeah, he was NFL Blitz. Remember NFL Blitz on the N64?
I do. So you'd put Sam Darnold on the Brad Johnson train of it.
But I'm a Brad Johnson boy. So, you don't have to take that all that seriously. I know. But I think Brad Johnson, history forgets how good Brad Johnson really was. But history will probably forget how good Sam Darnold was this year as well. So I guess that's actually not a bad comparison in my book. But yeah, again, like, you're talking about a game where everything we did in that game that was good was pretty much came from him. Like, there's not a lot else to say. I mean, look, Ken Walker, JSN. I'm not saying literally Sam Darnold was the only player that played good, but everything ran through him. So,
but would you say that he's more than a game? To the heart of my question is, he gets put with this game manager thing hung around his neck, and I think it's kind of unfair that he's been more than that for this team, that he's capable of being more for that than for this team. Where do you stand on that?
There are like, I think 7 quarterbacks this year that threw for over 4,000 yards, and he's one of them, right? Like this is not 10 years ago when we had 5 quarterbacks every year thrown for 5,000 yards. That's not happening right now. Like, you look around the league right now, yeah, you're going to find some quarterbacks that are better than Sam Darnold. But to say that he's on some kind of game manager level when you compare him to the rest of the league, absolutely not. It's like you got to compare people to their peers, right? You're not going to compare Sam Darnold this year to Peyton Manning or Ben Roethlisberger 12 years ago. You're comparing them to what is going on in the league right now. What's going on in the league right now, quarterback numbers are kind of down, just kind of across the board because of the way teams play. Defenses are playing the cover 2 shell, taking away a lot of the big plays. So when you compare Sam Darnold to the other quarterbacks in this league, I know he's not top 5, but he's definitely top 10, and I think he's probably top 8. So I don't think the game manager thing really lines up with reality here. So I'm really happy. I mean, part of me wishes that we had played a more complete game against the Rams, of course, but there's another part of me that's kind of like, I'm happy we were able to win on the back of Sam Darnold, because that's something that I don't think people would have expected. And I think that it's something that really threw people for a loop, and hopefully they learned something from it. And I think some people will and some people won't.
Yeah, if there's one game that can change the narrative, that one would maybe finally fully do that for those people who've been holding on to that with a death grip on some of the old takes having to do with Sam. We did get a couple pieces of news that I'd like to get your perspective on over the past week and a half since we last spoke. So I know we both talked about ourselves separately on these matters quite good, but let's also just get a little bit of your thoughts too on we got the Clint Kubiak situation going to the Raiders. So I guess a little bit of, where do you stand with that situation, how big a loss this is, and then where you stand currently at the moment of who you'd like to be the ideal replacement.
I mean, it's too bad. It is too bad. Kubiak did a good job this year. I'm a fan of what he was able to do, especially in these playoffs. He's been great. And I don't think it's something you can just automatically replace. I don't believe that it is something that is just automatically going to be mitigated. So it's too bad, but at the same time, he deserves the opportunity. He's done such a good job this year. I think that he deserves a head coaching opportunity. Hoping things go well for him. And if things don't, then maybe we'll be there to hire him back in 2 years. Could be a Josh McDaniels situation, right? Because he bounces back and forth between another team in New England like every 3 years.
Does seem to be the way it's going. I do wonder with him, for him being willing to take on this Raider job. If not, there was a little bit of, hey, you guys got to give me the 3 years on this. You can't come in here and keep doing what you guys have done and expect this to be a working process. It hasn't worked for you. Keep sliding through these coaches. So if I'm coming in, I need a little bit of, beyond just monetary guarantees that I'm going to have the time to get this done. They don't have to keep their word, obviously. You can fire you at any time, but you got to think that the Raiders will at least be thinking a little bit about that one with this hire, considering their track record of being so quick they're like Dr. Evil with his button on the, where you can push the button and drop the floor out underneath you and send you into the fires below. Mark Davis is slamming on that button every chance he gets.
Yeah, but he'll get his money either way, I guess. You can look at it like that. But at the same time, if things go badly, you may never get your head coaching chance again. Look at Spagnuolo. He does great work every year, and nobody will ever hire him as a head coach again, clearly.
Very much looks like that. And they're giving him, reportedly, maybe even $100 million worth of a contract to Kubiak, which pretty good reason to go take that job, too, if you got that kind of money sitting for you on the table.
Yeah, and look, I like Kubiak. I respect the job he's done. I would not give that guy $100 million. There's no way. Like, Mike McDonald got half that 2 years ago, and his resume was clearly better than Kubiak's is right now. I'm sorry. It just is.
I would agree with you there, man. I agree with you there. It's been kind of wild to watch them just get so hot to trot on him, but is what it is. He is looking like he's all but gone here at this point. Who is the coordinator right now in your mind that is number one, the one you want, if you had your pickings?
Earlier today, Frank Reich got picked up by the Jets, so he's off the board, by the way. And people who've been on this show for a while know that I'm a big Frank Reich fan, but he is off the board, so we're not going to talk about him. I do tend to look at a guy like Arthur Smith, and if you can get him out of that Ohio State contract that he apparently signed the other day, which typically you can, by the way. That's one thing I should say. Some people seem a little bit confused about that. NFL coach would always rather be in the NFL than in college, so they typically have clauses in their deal that they can leave in the event of an NFL offer. There's a buyout number usually. So I'm not worried about that, but Arthur Smith kind of brings everything together. He plays the kind of offense that I like. He has experience doing it. He has experience doing it well. We can give him personnel that's probably the best personnel that he's ever had to work with, especially at the quarterback spot where he's never really had anything all that great. And I'm not saying Sam Darnold's, like I said, an MVP quarterback, but I do think he's better than anybody he's had to work with before. So I think that is probably the number one guy right now. And in some ways, he's the only guy left that really brings everything together that I like. Like there are other guys that I like too, like Wes Phillips in Minnesota, but he's never called plays before. You just have to hope he learned from McVay and Kevin O'Connell really well. There are guys like Adam Stenavich in Green Bay, who I think is due an opportunity to call plays in the NFL, but again, he hasn't had that yet. You have guys like Brian Callahan, who did get a chance to call plays in Tennessee, and I do like the stock that he's from, but he was obviously a disaster in Tennessee, and he did not get to call plays in Cincinnati, so it's a little bit harder. You've got guys like Jake Peets who are currently on the staff, and they got the nice resume. They've worked under Nick Saban. He's worked under Sean McVay, but at the same time, it's a little bit thin. Like I go through these candidates, and I like some of them, and I dislike others, but none of them are clean candidates to me that I'm just completely on board with, other than Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I find myself in the other realm of this. Arthur's kind of my number one guy, and I'd really get uncomfortable about hiring in-house. I just don't think our history's been very good with doing that recently, and would like not to go back down that road again for the sake of comfort, as I think it would be done right now, rather than you actually trying to hire the best possible candidate. So we'll have to kind of track on that, but I think we're kind of in alignment there, Brendan, on that side of it. The other piece of news that we had come out through the week, which seemed to be, as Brock, you had intimated, and I do believe with Brock, love to hear your thoughts on this, is to, we got leaked out that the Seahawks are getting pressured to sell, and there's $5 million fines from the NFL, and Jody's not selling, and that they're due to maybe get sold now, that there's some sale thing that's kicked forward now all of a sudden. Seemed like a little bit of gamesmanship by Mr. Kraft, didn't it?
Could be. It would not shock me. Kind of weak if that's true, right? That's, to me, that's not much, right? That's just like, I don't know why the players would be particularly affected by that. So a little bit weak from my perspective if that's what it is, but that may be what it is. One thing I would say, though, is just because it's gamesmanship doesn't mean it's false. And that's one thing that I saw from a lot of people over the last week or so, ever since this story broke, people saying, oh, well, Bob Kraft made it up. And I don't think that's true. I think there's probably a lot of truth in the idea that this team is going to get sold, or the process will start this offseason. So I do think that the story is true. I do think we are going to start the process of a sale this offseason. We've known for years the team would have to be sold eventually. So this is not some blindsiding surprise. We just didn't know when. So I do think it's probably going to happen. But I also think that this team would prefer that people not be talking about it right now, because this team's in the Super Bowl. The only conversation the Seahawks want about the Seahawks right now is how great they've done this year and how good a team they have. So, I other than the initial couple videos that I made about it, because of course it was a big story, I've tried not to talk about it very much because, I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff right now. My team's in the Super Bowl, but totally. I do think it's probably going to happen. So I'm ready for it. I'm down for it. I'm hoping that we get the right guy, but it's really hard to know who the right guy is going to be until they're in that position and they have the opportunity to prove that they're the right guy.
Yeah, it kind of seems like to me that I do think there's something real to this, and Kraft serves on the committee that oversees these sales when they happen. That's how he got piped into the information, in my opinion. But it does kind of feel like, too, if you're a guy like a Bezos guy that's been looking and wanting to buy an NFL team for a while, and you have this team that is the next one to come up, and they go out there and they have this great young coach, they're making a Super Bowl run. Kind of feels like maybe they came in, and whoever's trying to presumptively buy this maybe came in and blew Jody and company away with a big time offer at that point, sort of a Godfather kind of offer, too good to refuse, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Right. And look, Jody's ended up doing a really good job, better than I think a lot of people could have expected her to do. So, it's not like we've got some bad owner that we're relieved to get rid of here. So shout out to her. She did a much better job than I think people anticipated. But one thing that this does open up the door to is potentially, now that Jody is on the way out, you might see the team a little bit more open to spending a lot of money on some of these contracts, simply because of the guaranteed money element that I think Jody was a little bit gun shy with, because of all the money you have to put into escrow, and her knowing that she wasn't going to be keeping the team much longer. That'll be the one thing that I think really changes when we get a new owner in here that's positive. Hopefully that happens, as we've learned with the Cowboys, just because you have the team long term doesn't mean you like putting that money into escrow. But that is one thing that I'm keeping an eye on here. That's one thing that the Denver Broncos have over a lot of these other organizations. They have so much money in that ownership group that they can just kind of sign whatever contracts they want to, and they don't have to worry about the guaranteed money that they're giving out.
No, they don't. They're also got one of the more higher paid coaching staffs in the league, which is another benefit if you have, purse strings like that to where you don't care about paying a coaching staff untold millions of dollars, as far as supporting staff beyond the head coach. Washington, I think to your point, has done a similar thing. When Dan Snyder moved on, you could see just more of a firmer commitment for the new ownership group coming in. And I think it's no coincidence that Washington gets right back to conference championship for the first time in how long last year with this new ownership group. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing on this, Brendan. It does, we both agree, seem to be something. There's certainly some smoke to this particular fire and a little bit of fire we can see around the smoke, but not necessarily something that's got to be a negative thing for the Seahawks or a bad, ominous thing in the future. And just a couple things to dispel on this. Jody is not going to sell us to a bad owner, number one, nor is she going to sell us to an owner that's going to move this team. Those are two things that some people are a little worried about. Let's just put the kibosh on that. It's not going to happen. Team's remaining into Seattle into perpetuity, and Jody's going to make sure she picks a good owner. She hasn't been a steward of this good through this long period of time to just kind of crap the bed right at the end.
Right. That is one conversation that I see get picked up a lot, and to me, it's just a complete waste of time. This team is not going to get moved. If a team was going to get moved, there are other teams out there that are much better candidates to be moved. Teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Until recently, you would say a team like the Buffalo Bills. There was a long conversation about the Bills moving to Toronto until they got good in the last decade or so. There have been conversations about some other teams potentially moving, like the Arizona Cardinals. Those are the teams that are in some jeopardy of being moved potentially. Not the Seahawks team, especially not with the stadium getting upgraded this offseason for the World Cup. They're going to pump $20 million into the stadium. It's going to become an even better stadium. It's already one of the better stadiums in the league. And we're the only team for 1,000 miles in any direction. They don't want to take that away. It's not like we got the Trailblazers or an Oregon team right beneath us or anything like that. I think they like having a team here. Remember, there's a lot of Seahawks fans in non-Washington states nearby because we're the closest team. Teams in Idaho, Oregon, you've got Wyoming, the western side of Canada, Alaska. There's a lot of Seahawks fans in those places just because of geography. I don't think they want to lose that.
I don't either. I think that it's very surprising to see it come down. But just wanted to cover it to put some people some fears at rest here. And I might have a blower outside blowing if you hear a little bit in the background. So sorry about that, Brendan. Let's get into this game. What we want to talk about is the Super Bowl matchup. What we want to get into is the preview here and trying to take a look at this game and get just a full feeling for what we're sort of sensing walking in. So before we get into matchups and players and kind of what we're expecting from this game, high level, what is your view of things walking into this game in this matchup? Where just kind of the first things that sort of first blush jump out at you?
I mean, I feel good about it. I think it's hard to not feel good about it. And you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, but it does feel like the game 10 days ago was the Super Bowl. It does. And that doesn't mean that this is a free win. That doesn't mean the Patriots are just going to hand it to us. And that doesn't mean that if we do lose this game, that we're going to be going into the offseason feeling like we won the Super Bowl, because in that case, we will have not. But it's hard to feel anything other than the Rams were the other best team in the league and we beat them. So now we just have to finish the job. And this happens in sports all the time. The Boston Red Sox team that came back from down 3-0 back in 2004 to the Yankees. Once they got through the Yankees, you knew they were good. You knew they were going to win that World Series. No problem. And they did. Or, the 1980 Miracle on Ice Team USA Olympic hockey team, when they beat the Russians, I think. Yeah, the Russians. That was not the gold medal game, but you knew they were going to win that gold medal game after that, and they did. So it does feel like you already did the hard part. That does not mean that there's anything disqualifying New England from playing a really good 3 hours of football next week and still beating you. So take it seriously, do your job, and I do think that there is a talent discrepancy on your side, and things will come out in your favor, but you got to go out there on the field and prove it. And that, I mean, that's the main takeaway. Just don't mess it up. Just do your job and things will be fine.
The team has fit to a certain blueprint this year in the back half of the schedule for how they win games, but this does also feel like a game where you can go win, and there can be kind of a variety of different pathways to going and getting that victory. Do you feel the same way, or do you think that it's a little bit narrowed on that we've got to do A, B, C, D, and this is what's going to be required to take down this Patriots team?
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like it is cleanly defined exactly how we win this game. I don't. I could see this going a few different ways. Like, I'm thinking about our offense versus their defense. And that's the one area where I think New England might have an advantage with their interior defensive line against our interior offensive line. And that's something we'll talk about more as this show goes on. But I still think we might be able to run the ball on them. But if we can't, then I do think we can challenge that secondary a little bit. And I'm also looking at their pass rush, and we don't know if they're going to have Harold Landry or not. Honestly, it looks to me like he's kind of physically breaking down. I think it feels like he's been in this league for quite some time now. It feels like his body's just given out on him at the very end here. And that's going to drastically affect what I think from this game. You're going to have the other side of the ball with your defense against their offense. I'm not 100% sure what to expect there either. I mean, I have to be honest. This Patriots team did kind of sneak up on me in that I feel like I didn't watch them that much this year. I feel like I didn't learn that much about them this year. I watched some of their games, and certainly I've been watching them over the last couple of weeks now because I've known that we're going to play them. But I think there's like this significant part here that I don't know exactly what the game script is going to look like. I don't know exactly how the game flow is going to be, and I'm pretty open-minded on how we get there. But the good news is this team has shown they can win under different circumstances and different situations. So I don't have a firm feel of like, if we do this, this, and this, we're good. Like, I knew we were going to be able to run the ball against the 49ers. I knew we were going to be able to run the ball all over the Niners all game long, both times we played them, and we did. This game, it's a little less defined to me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think there are a couple different pathways. I think what does kind of embolden the confidence in us, Brendan, if I may, on this, I just thought that this was one that really stood out to me as far as a stat goes. The New England Patriots walked into this year with a 429 strength of schedule from the previous 2024 records. And then this year, the actual record was down to 391. That was their actual strength of schedule record here, Brendan. The Patriots had the third weakest or easiest schedule in the NFL. So when you look at that and you see the 391, and then you go and you look at the opponents that they faced, and you sort of take this into account a little bit and go, okay, well, not a tough division, fairly easy schedule down the line with these opponents. And then you look to the playoffs where you face a Charger team that's down both Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, who I've maintained, and I was consistent with this since preseason talking about this Charger team. I felt like those were probably two of their three most important players on their entire roster. To lose those guys was just not like, well, they'll just get right through. Harbaugh's a great coach. He'll be able to bounce through. And that really showed up, I thought, in that Charger game against the Patriots. Then you have them come back next week against CJ Stroud. They're down their number one wide receiver. They're down Tank Dell. And you've got CJ Stroud looking not comfortable having to throw to a couple rookies out there on that outside, say nothing of that pass protection, which we also have known since this training camp has been god-awful and was going to be horrible for him. And it probably added up over a year, right? He's probably getting banged around for a year. It's like finally he's kind of, like a lot of quarterbacks will break in that situation. And then you got last week, snowy elements, Jared Stitham, a Bronco team that needed everything he could bring to make that offense just functional, right? Even with what he does with his legs alone. And that you put all that together with a 391 easy schedule, Brendan, and am I off my rocker for feeling like, man, there's some times here where I've got to tap the brakes on my confidence and not try to predict this as being a very comfortable win, as being very far beyond what Vegas has this projected to be. Because I just look at that, I look at the fact you're better in all three phases of this football team, and it gets hard for me necessarily to be as much to say that this is, you've spoken a bit about this a couple minutes ago, but that it's as mighty a challenge as it should seem for being the Super Bowl.
No, I think that you do have a valid point. Again, the thing that you push back with is just them having an easy path here doesn't remove the possibility that they can play very well for 3.5 hours on Sunday. But nothing, even if they do that, that doesn't change the fact they had an easy path here. They did. So, and when you break it down, like when you go even further than just the strength of schedule, you look at a game like the game they played against the Ravens, right? They were losing that game, and then Lamar got hurt, and they came back with Tyler Huntley on the field. There's no way they win that game if Lamar stays in. So even within that relatively easy schedule, they caught breaks like that. They got to play Tampa Bay after their season completely fell off a cliff and everybody started getting hurt for them, right? We had to play Tampa Bay back when they looked like a Super Bowl contender early in the season. And you start breaking it down, and if there were some kind of quantifiable statistic for luck in the NFL, this is probably the luckiest team in football. They themselves have mostly avoided injuries this year. They missed a few games with Milton Williams. I think Spillane missed a little bit of time, but other than that, they've been pretty healthy all season long. And that's with guys like Stephon Diggs in there, who I would have bet just about anything that he would have gotten hurt at some point this year. But no, he played all 17 games, I think, and ended up having a really nice season. So this is a team that is very fortunate to get here. There's nothing wrong with pointing that out. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. The issue is that doesn't prevent them from playing well on Sunday and beating us.
No, it doesn't. You're still going to need to bring your A game. You can't just show up and hope you can go through the motions. You're going to walk off. And that's the good part about this NFL team. Our team here in Seattle, I feel like they've done a good job of taking things week by week, Brendan, and staying locked in, never feeling themselves too much, never having the bad loss this year where they just thought that they could just show up and just their presence alone would be enough to go win it. Feels like every week they were able to have McDonald really connect him, and I'm expecting he's going to this upcoming week. Let's start off with the Patriot offense, because I think that's their biggest, that's probably their, most dangerous part of their team. I think the defense is functional and defense can do some good things, but I think it's the offense. If they're going to win this game, to me, is going to have to, really carry the day for them. Do you feel the same way on that? And then what is the first thing you look at with this offense you need to do when approaching them to shut them down?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. You look at what this offense has done against good defenses in the postseason, and make no mistake, the postseason's the first time they've run into good defenses. I don't know if that's the strength of their team. I'm not saying they're not, but I think it's a little bit less defined. Like, they put up big numbers because they played bad defense all season. I did an article for On SI a couple weeks ago, and I actually did the calculations on the defenses they played this year. The best defense they played this year in terms of points per game was Buffalo at 12th. They did not play a single defense in the regular season that was top 11 in points allowed. Not one. The best defense they played in terms of EPA was the Browns, who are good, but that was it. Like, they played the Browns, who were 4th in EPA. They played the Saints, who were 10th, and that's it. Those are the only good defenses they played all year. And then they get to the postseason, and you've seen the offense has not been very good, particularly the last game they played. They did basically nothing for 4 quarters and ended up playing water boy offense because Stidham gave them a free touchdown, and they were able to just kind of ride that. And I don't think anybody in the chat knows what a water boy offense means anymore, but basically it just means you're trying to not blow the game offensively. You're trying to just basically punt the ball away and let your defense take you home. But I don't know. I mean, I do agree it's been a good offense this year, but I'm not convinced that's the strength of their team right now with what I've seen in the postseason. I think that offensive line is very questionable, especially that entire left side. I think that left side is looking weak. Will Campbell has been, I think, a little bit of a mess in the postseason. He did look a little bit better against Denver, but he doesn't seem to really have it right now to me. Jared Wilson's been bad all year. He's playing out of position. I get it, but I don't think he's been very good. And they got Garrett Bradbury at center, who is like kind of the definition of just a placeholder. I don't think their receivers are that great. I mean, they've had a decent season, but I don't think there's a lot of juice in that receiver core. And I don't think they have the size and strength in the middle to really run the ball on our interior, which is where you can do damage on this defense, as the Rams proved. You run between the tackles, you run A gap, B gap, you can make some things happen, but I don't think this Patriots team has the guys to make that happen. So I don't know. It's tough with this offense to me.
It is hard. I think that those are all very fair assessments as to what we're seeing with them, and we do have got a little fancy thing. I've been playing around with the Chat GPT. It's been the thing's coming along a little bit, Brendan. To be able to use this as a resource.
Let me
So
see here. Any typos? Wow, actually no typos. That's incredible.
no typos. It's clean, huh? Not bad. So we've got this is the Patriot offense here in kind of a snapshot for you guys. The pressure rate is 27th overall on the bad side of it. And if you see one of the reasons for that being, if you go down 4 marks below that, you'll see they're 29th in their time to throw at 2.97 seconds. So, right out the gate, when you're looking at facing this Hawk defense, Brendan, you go, oh goodness, we create pressure, and we tend to be the hardest on those teams that hold on to the ball and are creating the pressure, if that makes sense, right? If you're getting the ball out of your hand really quickly, we might not have the pressure packages to quite get there that fast. But if you're a 2.97, if you're a 3-point guy, second guy, like that's the kind of like you're walking into the jaws of the beast a little bit with our defense, aren't you?
Yeah, that's one reason why I think this is a good matchup. I'm thinking about running stunts on the left side. I don't think they're going to be able to handle that. You run stunts with Big Cat and DeMarcus Lawrence on Will Campbell and Jared Wilson. I think you're going to make a lot of good things happen. And look, some of the pressure rate, some of the time to throw stuff is by design because Drake May does scramble really well, does use his mobility well to buy time. Same with Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy had all kinds of seconds to throw when they played us a couple weeks ago. But I do think that eventually you're going to be able to get home against this team because they don't even beyond that. I just don't think they can protect that well.
No, I don't either. And those 2 rookies on the left side, Brendan, you just look at that, and even Morgan Moses over on the right side. I mean, we're talking a guy, right tackle's been in the sport forever, mid-30-year-old guy, does not move the same way. I think the Hawks are going to have a potential of being able to sort of slam a power guy to one side and then the twitchy guy to the other side, right? Twitchy guy for Moses and then get the power guy for Campbell, and that you could really give each of those 2 guys fits throughout the course of the game because you kind of got 2-on-2. Like I think Uchenna and Boye, I think of more of like dip, bendy, quickness. And then with Derek Hall and DeMarcus Lawrence, I think more length, power, a little bit extra size that they bring to the table with the positions. And that's where I think you're really well suited to be able to go after these 2 tackles and this offensive line in general. I still don't understand, Brendan, what the draw is to take a center in college and move him to guard in the pros. I still can't think of, maybe Landon Dickerson was the one guy this has worked with in doing this, but it seems like every other team that tries this out, including us with Posick a couple of years ago, it just doesn't ever seem to work.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And he hasn't been a train wreck, but I don't think he's been very good this year. So I imagine he gets moved back because Bradbury's not very good either. Like Bradbury to me is just a placeholder. I think Jared Wilson will get to move to center next year, but for now, it's a weakness you can exploit.
Yeah, Bradbury was so bad with the Vikings, part of that offensive line that collapsed against the Rams last year in the playoffs, that they went and did the Clark signing off the back of that to replace him. Back to your point of him being just a kind of a dude, right? You took those steps because you didn't like what you were getting from the position in him. So there's definitely some weaknesses there. They are pretty good in team rushing EPA at 11th. Their team passing EPA per play is first, and some very interesting passing numbers to kind of dive into beyond this, just the EPA of what they do in that way, Brendan. Very interesting in that they're both a team that's really good at passing when they're under pressure and passing from clean pockets, passing on 3rd down and longs. These are situations, we see Mike tend to go into more of stack box situations when he gets that kind of situation, 3rd 8, 3rd 9, let me stack the box up. Not to say bring the blitz, but just give him a little bit of heat, maybe send 5. But this team in the Patriots has universally been good in how they've thrown. Competition is obviously a factor into this, but it does seem like one of the parts that I was surprised in doing some research onto this, and that they're, especially considering their receiving core, pretty legitimate at throwing the ball, are the Patriots.
Yeah, and I think Drake May for most of the year was the top deep ball thrower in football. That leveled off a little bit as the year went on, and he's obviously been a complete mess in the postseason. But he does bring some stuff to the table here. And if they get a true number 1 receiver next year, I mean, watch out, because I don't think they have a true number 1 right now. They've got Stephon Diggs, who, I mean, he's kind of cosplayed as one this year, I guess, but I don't think he's a number 1 receiver anymore. I think that you prefer to have him in more of a Cooper Kupp type role where he's catching maybe 3-4 passes a game than the role they've had him in this year, but they made it work.
And he is transitioning more and out of slot. You know, as those guys get a little bit less speed. They used to be outside dudes, and they start to get a little older. He's doing a little bit more of like, okay, I'm more now kind of a slot guy at times and what I can do. Um, Not great numbers as far as target separation and yak goes. So 22nd in average target separation for the Patriots as far as how much generation and separation. That speaks to back a little bit of the weakness of those receiving core guys like Mac Hollins, who's going to be more of a, hey, let me see if I can do a contested catch thing more than, hey, let me see if I can get separation from you thing. And then you're 16th in yak, so middle of the road with yards after the catch, which is interesting because it's an offense with a lot of, quick throws put in there by Josh McDaniels from his Patriot days. So not necessarily dynamic from a yak angle of it. 21st in light box rate, 7th in stack box rate. So a lot of teams have basically looked at this Patriot team and said, we're going to stack the box and we're going to bring a lot of blitzing. Certainly what Seattle's not going to do though, Brendan. I'm anticipating though you'll stack the box a lot. I think you're not going to see very much blitzing in this game at all. Would you see the same thing from the Hawks defense, or do you think you heat them up in this game?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't blitz Stafford very much, and every time we did, it felt like he burned us. So I'm not really expecting anything too different here because, again, you look at the numbers with Drake May, he was very good against the blitz during the regular season. Now, in the postseason, he's been bad against everything, but I don't know how much you should take from that, right? That's a little different. I don't think you need to. Against this offensive line, you should not really need to blitz all that much. And I think Drake May, even though he's not a veteran at all, he's a second-year player, and he didn't even start the full season last year, has shown that he is good against the blitz, and he can beat the blitz. So I don't think it's necessary. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of it, but I don't see a lot of blitzes in this game, and I don't think you should.
No, I don't either. I think with where their line is, how weak it is, you don't have to. At least your guys are going to be able to get home against this front four, especially with Drake May's penchant for holding the ball and trying to let some of those longer developing routes open up for him. They are 12th in rush inside percentage, 26th in outside percentage. So they are a fairly extreme team about where they're looking to attack in the rush game. I think ideally, Brendan, they wanted to have a little bit more of Travion as a secondary back to Ramondre, but there seems to be some issues with Travion as far as vision, picking the right holes, reading things correctly, and then he's been kind of a catastrophe when it comes to pass protection.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about that with you before we were done with the show today. So he played 4 snaps against Denver in a game where New England ran the ball the whole game. Like, it's not like they had to drop back and pass over and over and over again and they needed somebody who could block. No, they were running the ball, and he still couldn't see the field. They had Ramondre Stevenson out there the whole game. He played like 60 snaps, which is ridiculous for any running back in any situation. There must be a tremendous lack of trust there because I do understand that Henderson's a rookie and there are some problems in his game, but to me, he is the more talented of the two players. So it's very, very interesting the way they've split it up here. You'll probably see George Halani get more snaps in this game than you will Travion Henderson based on what I saw against Denver.
It's very possible. You wonder if maybe there's a little bit of like the footing wasn't as secured. So, a guy that's going to be a twitchy back like Travion that's going to need to like make cuts on a dime, can he do that in those conditions versus Ramondre, who's a little bit more of your, he's just a cattle car. He's going to come downhill on you and be tough in his running style and get you the extra yards. And then in that kind of a snowy environment, you lean into one versus the other, especially with Travion, because you just can't trust him in pass pro. If you're going to bring him out there, it's just your third down back. He's got too many holes. Like if he does that with us, I'd have Mike dialing up blitzes just to test him out in pass pro with a linebacker. Like Ernest Jones will eat his lunch if he is sent on a blitzer, in my opinion. And they don't have Antonio Gibson to fall back on, which would have been kind of their secondary back they could have gone to. So they are a little bit, stuck here with their running back position, which to me only all the much more means that Seattle, a little bit like the Rams game here, can really lean into the inside runs, that they don't have to as much protect themselves universally for things like fly sweeps and stuff like that, that you really can kind of keep it between the tackles here as far as where your concentration is. And with the Seahawks light boxes, Brendan, maybe that'll make it easier for them to defend the run.
Yeah, and also I don't think this Patriots offensive line is built to run the ball like that. Like you look at a team like the Rams, right? You got a team like the Rams. They've really dumped resources into making sure they can pound the ball up A gap and B gap with that interior. All that, 1,000 pounds of interior offensive linemen they've got probably.
Oh yeah.
The Patriots aren't like that. They've got Garrett Bradbury in the middle there. The only really big guy they have in the middle is Owenwu. He's a big dude. He's like 350, I think. But Jared Wilson, I think, is around 300 pounds as well. He might even be like 290.
Hmm.
So they're not built to run the ball like that. They've kind of had to run the ball like that, I think. But in my mind, when they put together this team in the offseason, they were thinking they were going to have a balanced attack with Henderson being kind of like your outside guy and Stevenson being your inside guy. And for a good chunk of the year, they had that. But now going into the Super Bowl, it really feels like they've become kind of an inside running team with Stevenson. And look, that's probably the right way to play against the Seahawks team. As the Rams proved, you're better off trying to get it in off A gap and A gap and B gap and try to challenge the fact that they don't want to play base. But
It is.
I look at this Patriots team and I'm like, they're not built to do it the way the Rams did. The Rams had to dump serious resources to get to where they were in that area of football. And I think that this Patriots team is not really built for it. They're just kind of making do.
Yeah, I do feel the same way. I do think that the pathway, sorry. I do think that one of the few pathways for the Patriots, Brendan, to get a win here against the Seahawks team, and anything can happen in these games. But one of the narrow points for me is if they can just lay on the ball, if they can just control the time of possession, keep our offense on it, try to wear down our defense over the course of the game, just keep grinding out third downs, the 4 yards, 5 yards plays that, I don't think like the Rams were situated to do it. They set themselves up to do it this offseason. They could just never seemingly stay committed to doing it. It always seemed like every game McVay was always driven a little bit to how can I get back to the pass? I think with this Patriot team, though, despite all the things you said, which I think are very much true and how hard it is to run, I still do think that if they can, knowing that we do run the light box and knowing they do have the ability to get at least downhill into those A and those B gap runs, those power runs with Ramondre, and he's the type of back that can be utilized that way. This would seem to me like one of the few ways they would have a pathway to getting to victory. Would you agree on my assessment of this?
Yeah, you want to shorten the game as much as possible if you're New England, because I think even the Patriots would agree they are underdogs in this game. Most people are picking Seattle. You've seen the experts, you've seen the prognosticators. Most neutral people are picking the Seahawks. So you got to find some way to like make it so that the team that is not expected to win wins. And one way you do that is you shorten the game by reducing the total number of possessions. And if you can get like if this game has 13 possessions for both teams, I think there's no way we lose. But if it's like 8 possessions per team, then it gets interesting, right? At the very least, you're upping variance. And you want to up variance if you're New England in a game like this. And in a weird way, the best way for them to increase variance is to reduce the number of drives. So, and one thing about the Seahawks defense is, as good as they are, they don't make a lot of tackles in the backfield. Like they're not a big tackle for loss team. They're more of a no gain, 1 yard, 2 yard gain team. So you can kind of keep it moving against them. You just have to be able to convert your third and mediums. So, I mean, there is a little bit of a roadmap there, but I don't think this Patriots team is the team that's built to really do it.
Mm. No, they don't. They don't seem to operate from a standpoint of being able to live in that mode, to your point. And the 2 points of data that stand out to me that really illustrate this, Brendan, are I thought with Drake May in the second year when I went and looked at, okay, it's a team that went 14-3. It's a team that had a lot of comfortable wins, a couple blowouts on the books. I should be seeing some pretty 50-50-ish run pass kind of splits, right? As far as their team as a whole, or something close to that in alignment. Mike Vrabel is a defensive minded head coach. They're passing 55% of the time this year. And I keep coming back as I look at that stat. First, that's the first one, Brendan. And I go, well, that's got to be a little bit of Josh McDaniels with the old Brady stuff. And like, I want to throw spread concepts. I really want to throw. He's got a little bit of the McVay stuff in him too, right? Where it's like, I'll run for show. I'll throw to go. And you go, well, wow, you guys don't always have as much of that inherent like committedness to doing that like we did, right? When early on in the year, every game, even if we didn't run the ball well, we were still going to run the ball in every single game. By hook or crook, we were going to get it done. I look at that thing, Brendan, and then I combo that up with Drake's penchant for going big game hunting a little bit too often. Like he kind of defaults back to that. And I go, I don't know if they've got the patience to live with this. It is the way I think they can win, but I don't know if they inherently have the patience, to your point, second go on being willing to do it. Do you?
Yeah. And, I know that it's been a little different in the postseason, but I am looking at rbsdm.com, which does EPA stuff. And according to this, New England's rush offense was 25th in the league in EPA per play. I think if you take out garbage time, it gets a little bit better. but it's not really a good running team. It's a team that has been able to run the ball a decent amount this year because they've always been playing from ahead. But you're right. Even with that, they're not doing as much as you would think. Like, you look at these games they played. Oh, are we okay?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
I thought I accidentally closed the tab. But yeah, you look at these games they played, they've mostly won in relatively blowout fashion in a lot of these games, not all of them, but a lot of them. And they're still not running the ball as successfully as you would think. And it does seem like ultimately their team is driven by Drake May and their passing attack. And like I said, I don't think their receivers are all that. Like I said, Stephon Diggs has a little bit of juice left, and Mac Hollins is okay. What's Kayshon Boutte?
Booty.
Kayshon Boutte, he's okay as well, but I don't fear this receiver core at all with my cornerbacks. Like a lot of people are looking at that Rams game, but I don't think there's any comparison between what the Rams have at receiver and what the Patriots have at receiver. I don't think it's even close. So and I don't feel like you got to play matchups either. I'm fine with Woolen on either of those guys. I'm fine with Witherspoon on these guys. Like I don't think it's even really a big matchup thing. Like Eman Wari on Diggs, I'm down with that. Yeah. To me, it's just a completely different ball game.
It really is to me. I mean, you mentioned the two receivers, Booty and Mac Hollins is their de facto two out there. I mean, he's the guy out there a lot, and he's a good run blocker, but he's not separating. And I'm watching the tape; he's just not. And Booty's got some ability to him, but it's 400 yards receiving this year, and intermixed a little bit. But I don't think he's separating from our cornerbacks out there. None of these guys are. I think you can lock them up really well. I also think when it comes to the big game hunting aspect of Drake, it comes back to like, that's kind of the teeth of our defense, man. We're going to protect against the deep ball. We're not leaving ourselves as susceptible in the back end. How many big plays have been hit over the top this year that were not Rams? It means like the Rams were able to get their inroads in both the two games that we played them in the last two. But other than that, Brendan, I think I saw that there was like 10 plays of like over 20 yards passing against the Seahawks, against the Rams here when they just recently played them. And then there was 10 throughout the whole rest of the year cumulatively. So I just don't know. It's Drake wants to go there. It's like when times get rough, he'll kind of like F it. It's the old F it. He's down there somewhere kind of throw. There's a lot of that with him watching the tape on the books. A lot of that, like, I don't like, it's a muddied read. I know I got a 9 route going down here. Let me just throw it up to the 9 route. And it a lot of times isn't even close. Not even in that like vicinity, just in the trajectory, just kind of like literally almost a throwaway, but a hopeful throwaway, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of make sense why that would be the case. As much as he's been good this year, he's not a veteran at all. He's very inexperienced in this league. You would not expect him to necessarily have a great handle on all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I agree. And he had great success with it earlier in the year. But as the year's gone on, there's been less and less success. Defense is kind of catching on to what he likes to do. Like, it does kind of make sense.
And we do have this stat, Brendan, which I know that you're very familiar with, but worth presenting here once again, which is over the last 2 years here with Mike Macdonald since 2023. He has got quarterbacks under the age of 24, 0-6, with a record 1 touchdown, 8 interceptions, and 22 sacks in those 6 games. This also doesn't include Max Brosmer, of course. What is Mike Macdonald doing to these young quarterbacks?
He's showing them stuff that they don't expect. Like, I know we don't blitz that much anyway, so I'm not saying it's all that, but it's that whole idea of how you don't want to blitz a veteran quarterback. Well, the reciprocal of that is you do want to blitz a younger quarterback. Now, I'm not saying we want to blitz Drake May, but you don't have to blitz to show a quarterback something that he's not expecting. And that's kind of the beauty of McDonald's defense. He's going to send 4 guys a lot. They're just not going to be the 4 guys you expected. So I think that's the main key there. Now, obviously, the other quarterbacks he's played that were under 24 are not as good as Drake May. Like, those quarterbacks are who? You're talking about, like, who would that have been? Bo Nix? I think, was Bo Nix already 24 when we played him?
I think he was 24 at the time. I want to say still 24.
Okay, yeah. Like, you got Bo Nix, you've got who
Bryce
else?
Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young. You said that list did not include Max Brosmer, right? So that is not that, but
yeah, because he's 26 or something like that.
I think CJ Stroud was under 24 when we played him earlier this year. So yeah, Drake May's better than those guys. But
Jaden Daniels.
I mean, Jaden on one arm or whatever the heck was going on with him in that game. But still, it does go to show that he knows how to punish these quarterbacks that are not going to just take what the defense gives.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that are good under 24, right? Like, so there's not a lot of like, well, he hasn't played this prime guy at 23. Well, there's not a lot of prime guys, but to me, the confusion that he creates on the front side and his ability to do that imminently, not having to change who he is to do it, just that this is who we are inherently, is to disguise and hide. That is going to be hardest on those guys that haven't learned the ropes. And so this is a stat that, yeah, it's a cool stat, but it's also one that makes sense stylistically to me, Brendan, for how you play defense, how you go about your business.
Yeah, I do like it. I do like the setup. I do like the matchup. Again, I'm not worried about what the Rams did to this defense. And don't get me wrong, that was bad. Defense did not play well against the Rams, but I'm not thinking that's going to carry over. I don't think that really means a lot as we go into this game. It's a completely different situation, completely different circumstance, much worse offensive line. I do think worse quarterback, maybe not by a radical amount, but worse quarterback. I would say probably worse running back as well. I think Kyron Williams is better than these guys, and definitely worse receivers and worse play caller. Shout out to Josh McDaniels, but he's not Sean McVay.
He's not. I think that those are all very, very fair assessments. I think that we do have a similar attack style here in what we want to look to go at, which would be that we're not looking to really blitz because we don't think we have to. We want to both bring, it sounds like, some stack boxes and then work off those stack boxes by maybe only bringing the 4, maybe the 5, one extra. And then you heavy utilization, as you said earlier, on the stunt, loop, twist game to really, you're not only now confusing Drake on the looks and the stacks, you're confusing the 2 rookies you've got on that offensive line on the left side, that blind side for the quarterback. So it's kind of like a compound thing where you're hoping we're doing this one thing which you normally only just do for the quarterbacks, but because we got this green on the offensive line, we're hoping to kind of double dip the chip.
I like it. I like it. Find creative ways to still send 4 guys. Find creative ways. Stunting on that left side, I think, is going to produce a lot of good results.
I do as well. And you can intermix some of the man zone stuff, but I think staying more in zone. I just want to drop as many guys into coverage, as 7 guys into coverage as possible at times, and really squeeze down those passing windows for Drake. He seems to be a guy, I think, a big part of this game to me that's the key. I think I heard Tony Romo speak to this, and it's something that I saw from the tape, which is this game's going to come down to, Brendan, which offense can be more effective knowing what they're going to encounter to the defensive side of the ball. The Seattle Seahawks are going to know that they can counter the single high safety a lot against this New England Patriot team. The Patriot team can end, and then a lot of 3-4 base looks, Brendan, right off the 12 personnel, because that's where Patriots are going to live. They're going to live with a lot of 3-4 looks, base personnel, and a single high safety. So a lot of times bringing that extra safety in the box, where Seattle defensively lives in nickel, and then they like to do the 2 high shell. And so with Drake, watching the tape with him, just another place where there's all these little advantages we have in this game, like we've talked about in some of these other games this year, but this one especially, where you've got Drake to where he's practicing against essentially that sort of single high look a lot. The Patriots will show you a cover 2 shell, but Vrabel doesn't do as good a job with his defense of really hiding the shell, Brendan. Like the safety will, prior to the snap, be giving the quarterback the indicator of coming down to the line, the one safety that's coming to the line of scrimmage. And so I think May's gotten used to practicing against that single high, and he's gotten comfortable with that. But when he's had to face the cover 2 shell stuff, it's definitely put a bit of a hamper on his ability to play the position. He's just not seeing it as clearly when he drops back to pass.
Yeah, that does make sense because he is a guy who likes to fling it down the field a lot. He is a guy who likes to challenge that. So, it's kind of like what happened with Russell Wilson in 2020, right? When teams started living in cover 2 against him, he was not nearly as good.
And like I said, he wants to go big game hump thing. So your point on Russell, it's what that took away with Russell is they just knew there was a penchant. I want to go down the field. There's not as much of the penchant as I'm committed to throwing short. I'm committed to taking what the defense gives me. I get confused. I default back to let's go to the moon ball. And that's a little bit of what Drake May does as well. And this is where we come back to again, that I feel like this Patriot offense kind of in certain ways runs into the strength of the Seahawks defense. And it's just not really well suited for them.
Right. So, I don't think this is as good a matchup as the 49ers are against the Seahawks team. That's one reason why I felt so confident a couple weeks ago when we played them. But it's also not the Rams. The Rams were a team I felt were a bad matchup for us, and we were going to have to kind of out-talent them. This is somewhere in the middle. I think we can handle it, but I don't think it's some big mismatch in our favor. But I'm fine. I'm cool with the matchup.
Yeah, I am as well. And just a little final item to kind of monitor. I'm sure you've heard about this as well. Is that May didn't practice all of last week.
Yes,
He
yes,
at
I
the end
did
of
want to
that
talk about
last
that.
Bronco game. Yeah, he fell on his shoulder. Watched it. It was pretty bad landing. It's one of those like you land right on it with the full weight kind of thing. And didn't practice all last week, which is not ideal, Brendan. And I do worry a little, not worry, but I do wonder a little bit about this being that, you have a rookie quarterback. You want to give him every bit of practice you can. If that thing's at 95% shoulder health wise, you want him out there because you're trying to put out the most intricate game plan you can to take on this defense. But, I also come back to thinking on this, Brendan, of like, if it is kind of jacked up, Drake May at 80%, or would you go to Joshua Dobbs? It's like, I wouldn't go to Joshua Dobbs in no way, no how in this game.
No,
So I
don't think you can. I mean, it's the last game no matter what, right? Like,
yeah.
You got to go with the guy that brought you, I think, unless you literally cannot. But, you're absolutely right. I think there clearly is a problem there. And after the injury happened, there were some throws he made in that Denver game that were good, but there were also some ones that were really bad. And I don't think those throws are that bad without him being negatively affected in some way. So, and it's different than the oblique thing, remember, because Sam Darnold, we've seen him play very well for the last 2 games with the oblique. So I'm not worried about the oblique anymore. Yeah, a couple weeks ago I was like, okay, what are we going to get here now? But at this point, I'm like, I completely trust him. With Drake May, we've seen so little of him since the injury. I don't know. And we haven't gotten the injury report yet today. We probably will later. And I'm very interested to see what's going on with him. I think he's the only question mark they got on that offense, but that's a big question mark. If he's at 80%, I don't know what they do. I don't know if they can overcome that.
They don't got Nick Foles sitting on the bench. It's kind of what we're saying. They don't have Jeff Hostetler sitting over there on the bench, right? Like it's
they got Tommy Cutlets. They got Cutlets.
There you go. Don't forget the Cutlets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's peel this over here in a second. Back over the defense. Let's get a couple of we got a couple donations though, and sponsor the show drops. We'll get a little love to that. Thank you, Warhammer Guy, for the $2 donation. It says Jennings Dunker would solidify this O-line for 4 years. He was the one guy, Brendan, getting a chance to watch him on the field and work, and he just went out there and could have been one of those guys after probably 2 days said, okay, I did my work. I'm good. I'm going to go. But he played all the way through, played in the game. They had him playing at right guard and at right tackle. He was very good at both. Kind of think that he's going to be out of our range at this point in the first round. Somebody's going to probably grab him in the 20s. He's kind of in that, he's in that Graham Barton, Gray Zabel kind of area of things where a guy could probably play a couple of different positions on the offensive line. But boy, I tend to agree with Warhammer. If you could get that guy at right guard for the future, you are set for maybe the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's game over though, like you said, especially because his arm length is longer than expected. He ended up measuring in with I think 34-inch arms. So I think he's a tackle. If that's true, he's going to play tackle. And I don't think he's going to get to us. I think somebody will be like, okay, there's our right tackle of the future. We're going to take him at 27 or something. I don't know which team, but like a team like the Rams, and I don't know if they would do this. I think they'd probably go a different direction. But if they get there and they're thinking about, Rob Havenstein probably going to retire soon. Warren McClendon did not look good in the playoffs. Maybe they want to go that way as a right tackle. Makes sense to me.
Absolutely does. And he always has the fallback of going guard or even center if it doesn't go there, where he'll be a top one at those other two positions if he can't make it at right tackle. So it's just there's so much safety in him, and in this draft where there's not as much safety and not as much knowledge of having really, really good players. It's kind of a little bit more of the mixed bag there. But Warhammer, love him, man. He's one of my draft crushes, and if we get him at 32, that would be phenomenal. King Prodigy, thank you for the $10 donation over on Brendan's side. B&B, I wasn't old enough to know what I was watching when we played the Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl, but after some research, it seems very similar to this one. Hawks versus a young quarterback, heavy favorites. Am I wrong?
I think you are. For one, Pittsburgh was favored in that game. I remember very clearly. Everybody picked Pittsburgh for that game. So I think Pittsburgh was I can't remember how many points favorites. So they were definitely favorites for that game. And also Pittsburgh had the tough road to get to the Super Bowl. They had to go through the
Mhm.
1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and they had to go on the road, and they had all that momentum from beating, the Colts. It looked like the best Colts team ever. They beat the Broncos in the AFC title game in Denver. They blew them out, actually. So this is very different, I think. And also, I do think that Steelers team, while they didn't have a great regular season, was better than this Patriots team, which I think has gotten very fortunate to be where they are with injury luck and also opponent luck, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think it's that similar at all.
Yeah, I think if you looked at just the schedule that they had in the regular season that year, I think that that's what kind of leads people to look at there and go, well, this is similar to this Patriot team. But I think what Brendan just did, and he did a good job, I think, of capturing, where I would be at with it, where there was more with that Steeler team. I think you could also make the argument here coming into this, Brendan, that we are the hottest team in the NFL over the back half of the schedule, and we've maintained that heat into the playoffs. So we're playing our best football. We're playing the best football of the NFL right now. And likewise, that Steeler team in 2005, as they entered in that Super Bowl with the run that they had at the end of the year, got really hot at the end of the year on top of the pathway that Brendan just talked about that was so tough, such a gauntlet to get through. Not the same thing with the Patriots team. Not necessarily playing their best football right now at this time of year. Drake not playing his best football at this time of the year. And if you want to look at it, just take a look at this defense of the Steelers back then. I kind of looked it up. Here's some of the names of what they had on that defense. Casey Hampton, James Ferrier, Larry Foote, Joey Porter, Troy Polamalu, Ike Taylor. You had a couple Hall of Famers in there, a couple almost sub Hall of Famers in there. Say nothing of the offensive side of the ball from Roethlisberger, Antoine Randall, Hines Ward, still Jerome Bettis at the end there, rolling along. A couple of Alvin Faneca, who I believe was a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. You just don't have that kind of top end talent or difference makers to me on this Patriot team. The way I look at it, Brendan, as much as those points that you just provided as well, I think it on the surface it fits, so to speak, here, King. But the deeper you get into this one, it doesn't quite hold as much water.
Yeah, and also I would say that going to that game, the Seahawks were viewed as like the finesse team, and the Steelers were viewed as the smash mouth team. This year, if anybody's finesse, it's the Patriots because of how reliant they've been on their passing attack. You wouldn't call them a smash mouth team, although I don't know if you'd call them finesse. But if there's anybody in this team that is in this game that is smash mouth, it is the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with that. I mean, I don't think there's a smash mouth when you're passing the ball 55% of the time and you're up in your game so very often. I think that does lead more to, if I have to say finesse or smash mouth with this Patriot team, I'd probably go a little more finesse because of that. But yeah, I can see where you're going for sure there, King. And in certain ways, it kind of a little bit fits. But just when you really get into the depths of it, I think that Steelers team was, hell, a couple years later with Tomlin, they get back to the Super Bowl. Still some of the same guys that you had there that are, were still on that roster at that time. So not to mention, I think Packers, and they play against the Packers too a couple years after that or something, I want to say.
Yeah, that was the Rodgers lone Super Bowl.
So yeah, these guys were very, very good players, and not quite this. I mean, I look at the Steeler team. We're going to talk about the defense in a second, but there's just, I think it's very absent of difference makers. I mean, Drake May on the offense, and then who on the offensive line? Nobody. Who are the running back core? Nobody. Tight ends. I mean, Hunter Henry's a solid tight end. I don't think I'd call him a difference maker. And they don't even have like the blockers at tight end to me, where it's Austin Hooper and then former Seattle Seahawks Westover are your sort of two other tight ends there. And neither of those two guys are exactly blocking demons to that side, Brendan. They can't even do like our heavy thing where they can just smash you up off the edges.
Yeah. Shout out Jack Westover, though. I hope he gets on the field for at least one play in that game. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Hey, hell yeah. He will. He gets some run out there. So it's kind of cool. But thank you, King. Appreciate the donation and love the reference on that. Princess Jessica, thank you for the $2 donation. It says, which players do you think we will re-sign this year?
I think we kind of have to re-sign Walker now. I think we're kind of obligated to. I don't think you can replace Charbonnet and Walker in one off season. I know people are hyped up for McIntosh, but he's had 2 devastating injuries in his career already. You can't count on that guy at all. So I think you have to re-sign Walker now. I think we're re-signing Shaheed. I don't think you can give up a 4th and a 5th for him and then only have him for half a season when he's been so valuable and he hasn't even really had time to integrate himself into this offense yet, and he's still been so good. Just on the strength of his speed on special teams alone, he's been worth it. I'm not so sure about anything after that. I think everything else could go either way. I think Maffe's probably gone, and everything else I feel like could go either way.
I'm in agreement with Brennan on this one. I think those two guys are going to be made to be pretty high priorities in getting those guys retained. I think with the corners, I think somebody's going to give a little bit of money to Job, and I think somebody's going to give a decent amount of money to Woolen. And I just think that they're going to look at, hey, let's spend our money elsewhere on this one. Let's go a different approach with this. We've got our other two corners set with the slot and Witherspoon, so let's kind of accommodate this a different direction, I would say. So I do think, though, there'll be a nice run made at Walker and Shaheed. And I think with both of them, Brendan, those are two contracts you can get done where you don't have to necessarily break some bank to get them done. I know coming off potentially a Super Bowl winning roster, that always inflates the rates on guys just in general terms, right? But I still feel like at the very least with Walker, if I got to use the franchise tag, I'll use the franchise tag if it gets to that.
Yeah, and even top running backs don't make cap crippling money. That's the thing, right? Like you're going to get Walker for at most like 12 million a year, I think. At most. Like that's not the end of the world. Even if it doesn't end up working out that well, it's not the end of the world. It's not like, there are players out there that are getting 3 times that amount per year. And
if I told you
on those guys,
if I asked you if he just gets 200 touches a year on that contract on a 3-year deal, and let's say there's some injuries around that or something prevents him from getting up over the 200 touches at the 12 million mark you just mentioned, wouldn't that be worthwhile even on that surface alone, wouldn't it? If it's let's say he's giving you a 4.5 yard per carry, 4.6 yard per carry with those 200 touches.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down for it, especially with this team. Assuming we maintain the same kind of offense, like maybe if we bring in some RPO spread guy, maybe not, but I don't think we're going to do that.
No.
I'm assuming that we stick with the kind of similar kind of offense that we have right now. So
I would think so.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you've seen the clip, but like a lot of people were talking about how McDonald reacted to the celebration penalty on Woolen. Sounds like he's kind of like done with him. Sounds like he's like, yeah, I need guys in here that are a little bit more about football. I can't be having that. So I would guess that Woolen's gone. I will say it's going to be hard to replace his production, his ability to cover, but I think this team would rather try to do that than give him 25 million a year. I do. That's my read. Yeah. I think Kobe is interesting because he could end up being a lot cheaper than I'm expecting, but I kind of feel like he's going to go and we're going to go get another safety some way, somehow. Again, it just really depends on the price there. And who else is there? Who else is there worth talking about? Drake Thomas is going to be easy to bring back because he's restricted. Sundell is going to be really easy to bring back. He's exclusive rights. And I can't think of any. Oh, Bobo, I guess, but that's going to be really easy too if we want to do it. So I don't think there's nothing else really worth talking about.
Yeah, they're in an amazing situation this offseason if they can win the Super Bowl, Brendan, because I don't think you could say that there's ever been another team in a better. Well, yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were able to return all of their starters a couple of years ago. But just from the standpoint of that was always like, well, one more year. This is like the beginning of something a little bit. And the fact that not only are you almost basically returning just about all your starters, save for a guy here and a guy there, we just got the increase in the salary cap to $90+ million. You got all this money you can go spend. And yeah, you got a couple of extensions you still got to get done, but that's not going to peel it all away. And then like you signed Devin Witherspoon and JSN to an extension and now you're done. You're still going to have a lot of money to spend.
Don't kick in for years is the thing, right? Yeah. Like if you extend Witherspoon, he's got next year to last year's rookie deal. You can use the 5th-year option before you extend him. Then he's years away from that extension money even kicking in. And that's typically how these things go. Like, I don't think NFL teams are in a hurry to like front load these contracts, especially when they're in a window like right now. And the player doesn't care. The player just cares about getting his money and he's still going to get the guarantees. Right.
Yep.
So 100%. It doesn't mean anything to the player. Same for JSN. Like these are not going to be crippling deals for years and years. Like next year, those guys are still going to be very cheap, even if they get monster extensions this offseason. I think the one concern is just the edge room, right? I think the edge rusher stuff is the one thing about this team that concerns you because I can feel that part of the team breaking down. And that is one thing that concerns me a little bit about this game. Do those guys have any gas left? D-Law's been great, but he is 33 years old. He's got a lot of miles on him. We've had to ask way too much of him this year because he's been our best guy out there. I hope he has enough left for one more game. Nwosu feels like he's really broken down. He's been kind of a mess in the postseason. And Mafe and Hall were just not getting what we thought we were going to get from them. And you're probably losing Mafe. Nwosu may be a salary cap casualty. Are you going to be able to replenish your edge rusher room this offseason to where you can go make a run at things in 2026? That to me is the big question.
Agreed. And you may have to go for two guys. You may have to get an impact and get another guy on top of it. There may be a lot you have to address there with that edge room to reinforce it. We may have a couple guys, if we win this Super Bowl, that are up for potentially retiring. Does a Cooper Kupp, does a DeMarcus Lawrence, does Leonard Williams? Look at that as like, hey, that's a great finish up to the career. I'm good. I'm done. I did what I came to do. I made my money. I'm a Super Bowl champion. I've been an All-Pro. I've gotten it done. It's very well a possibility coming out of this. Is one of the reasons why the Super Bowl is so vital, and we can't think of this for too much. We're about to go on a dynasty run. Like, get this one. You got to get this one because you never know year to year how this stuff can kind of change and fluctuate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this famous story from the 2002 Sacramento Kings. And that was a Sacramento Kings team that came very, very close to making the finals that year. They went to Game 7, lost in overtime to the Shaq Kobe Lakers. And I read this story, and it's kind of famous now. Most people have probably heard about this one where, the guys in the front office, the guys in the coaching staff, they're sitting around after that game talking about how, we're going to be back. We're going to be so great. We're going to do this next year. And then one guy stands up and is like, well, what if we don't? What if this was our best shot? And it was. They never got close to that again. They still haven't. So you don't know when the rug's going to get pulled out from underneath you. So while you're here, go finish it.
Go finish it, man. Got to do it. Addis the Gamer, thank you for the $2 donation, says, I'm ready for this game. Tired of seeing that play. God, it was lame yesterday with the Mike McDonald interview with like 4 straight guys asked the same question. It's like, are you guys not listening to one another? You're just waiting your turn to ask the same stupid ass question about the 1 yard play.
Yeah. It's you can see why Marshawn does what he does sometimes, can't you? You can really tell. Like maybe some guys on this team got to bring back the old Marshawn stuff. Like if I was there getting asked questions like that, I might do that.
I might too. I couldn't believe like it was one after the other too, where you're just going, what is this? What are you guys doing? What are we doing here?
Mike McDonald was probably in like junior high when that play happened. I'm kidding. I know it wasn't that long ago, but was he even working in the NFL back then? I think he was still in Georgia or something.
He wasn't even in the, he wasn't even in the program yet. So he's probably still in not even high school, probably junior high or something at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, 20 years old. He was like 23, 24 years old when that happened. He might've been, I don't know, selling used cars somewhere. I don't even know if he was working in football at that point, but like, what does he have to do with any of that? Like, none of these guys have anything to do with any of that except John Schneider. So it's just kind of, I guess you got a whole week to ask questions. There are going to be some stupid ones, but man, that is one that does not need to be asked.
I could understand one time being asked, but the fact that those guys all in succession were like, I don't know if they were trying to troll or they thought this would be a funny thing. Or they just weren't listening. I was wondering if a bunch of guys are looking at their phone like, okay, it's your turn. If you get the ball to the 1 yard line, you get a throw or you can run it. It's like, it was sort of that. I couldn't, it was weird, but Mike was tired of it by the end. He's like, I'm not answering this question again.
Yeah. I remember actually, I think this was about a year and a half ago. I went to a Seahawks event and in a Hilton hotel lobby. And I've been there a few different times and they did it last year. It was shortly after McDonald got hired. And there was one point where they were taking questions from the audience and every question was about, do you remember that thing where McDonald had all the stuff from the Pete Carroll era in the hallway at the VMAC taken down? Every question was about that. And you could tell by the end, they were like, can we talk about something real here, people?
People got so up in arms on that stuff. It was ridiculous.
And now we're 1 win away from having a better season than that team ever did.
There you go. Best all-time Seahawks season at the end of the day. Trenton Puckett, thank you for the $5 donation. Trenton says, B, cue the breaking news. Justin Crosby does not want to be part of another rebuild. Let's grab him. It's very much in play.
Who does want to be part of another rebuild? Nobody. That's not fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like it doesn't even really matter what Crosby wants. I think he's going to get traded this offseason. Like I feel like even if he really wanted to stay, the Raiders would still trade him because they got to go their own way now. And the draft picks they get for him are going to do more for them than Crosby.
And I do think a contender probably comes up to making the biggest offer to him. If you were a rebuild team throwing multiple first round picks at the Raiders to get Crosby in there as part of a rebuild, Miami, for instance, tries to go grab him. That just wouldn't really make much sense from a Miami perspective or a team in that kind of position. I think it makes a lot of sense for a team that is a contender. Certainly, I think we're going to make a hard run at him, but I could see the Rams making a hard run at him with the 2 first round picks. I could see the Eagles, how their edge room played this year, and they had to bring Brandon Graham off the couch and trade for Jalen Phillips at the trade deadline. I think there's going to be some teams out there that are going to be legit teams that are going to be in on this, and that there could be a bit of a bidding war on this one because he is kind of the only guy like this on the open market.
Yeah, 49ers could get involved.
Sure.
The Bills, I think, are going to be pretty involved as well if they can afford it. I don't know if they can, but I would assume they could find a way. I think pretty much anybody that has higher aspirations except for Denver. Like it wouldn't make sense for Denver, but other than that,
No.
I think anybody should be at least thinking about it pretty hard. And look, that may lead to whoever gets them having to overpay, but I'm not scared of an overpay right now, especially with where I think this edge room is going to be in 2026.
What's the highest you go cumulatively? Doesn't have to be for the exact assets, but give me your draft capital. Like it can be a draft capital and you kick in a player, but just give me the pure of what it would be draft capital to be as far as you're willing to go.
I mean, I would probably go like 2 firsts, a second, and maybe a throw-in player.
Ooh, okay. Brendan's going hard with it, Brooks. He's in.
I mean,
He's in on
especially
Crosby.
if it's the first and second from this year, because this draft is so weak to me. Like I just don't value these picks that much. And I know that's going to create a boring offseason, but I'm thinking about what's best for the team. And Max Crosby is going to do a lot more for you than Brandon Cisse and Jonah Coleman.
I don't disagree with you, man. So I can see completely the rationale behind it, and I would certainly applaud it if they were out there to make a move for Crosby. Got to do something on the edge group. You mentioned a couple minutes ago. Going to have to do something on this edge group as is. You can't just stand pat and go, it's fit to serve. We're fine. Just keep doggy paddling our way into next year. You're going to have to do something there. And
Yeah.
drafting guys, as we've seen with Hall and Mafe, is not necessarily an answer for a team that should be ready-made to be another Super Bowl contender next season.
Yeah, there are some guys in free agency for whatever that's worth. Like there's Khalil Mack's actually available, but how much does he have left? It's hard to know. Joey Bosa is going to be available because I don't think the Bills are bringing him back, but same thing there. Malcolm Kuntz is another guy who's going to be available, but he's not on that level of a Max Crosby. There are guys, but none of them are Crosby, and not even close.
No, no, they're not. They're not in that same realm of things. So I'm all in on it, man. If it's their trend, sign me up, man. If we can make it happen. Poncho Honcho says apparently Drake May has the worst completion percentage on 3rd and 6 or more. Thoughts? Go Hawks. Actually got a little bit of information on this. I think that the completion percentage on this can be a little bit of a misnomer. And the reason why I say that is because, Poncho, as you look here at the NFL stats that I've got presented up right here on the side here, you'll notice that I've got delineated here by 3rd downs. So 3rd down, and then I've got 7 or longer. Okay. So taking the completion percentage out, let's just look at passing EPA per play. And what you can see on this, and I know it's hard to see, but just take my word for it. The second best team in the NFL on passing EPA per play in 3rd down or long and 7 is the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. So while the completion percentage may be low, and look, he's 55% on the year anyway, as far as his completion percentage, he's essentially he is inaccurate for a modern NFL quarterback by that completion percentage. That's just kind of what you get down 1 through 3 when it comes to Drake May. But they were actually a team that's been fairly good at being able to still convert on 3rd and longs. And that has to do with his big arm and his ability to, go big game hunting down there, not just looking for the check down. Something maybe you can take advantage of too, though, when it comes to, potential of throwing interceptions or taking bad sacks, because he'll hold on to the ball a little bit longer. He'll wait for those plays to develop. There's an offshoot to this on the other side of it, but they actually are pretty good at finding still some conversions when it comes to the 3rd down. And you'll notice here that there's a 42% pressure rate on that high EPA per play on third down and long. So
Yeah.
yes, and kind of no on that one.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they may not have a super high conversion rate, but I'll bet they turn some of those third and longs into big plays where
Yes.
like maybe they don't get the 7 yards every time, but they do get like maybe a 50-yard play here and there because May's willing to go for it. So it's a trade-off, right? Like you look at that Rams game that we just played 10 days ago on that 3rd and 4 on the first drive, Sam Darnold hits Shaheed over the top for a 50-yarder. I mean, it converts the third down the same way a 5-yard completion would have, but do we score a touchdown on that drive without the 50-yarder? I don't know.
To your point, Brendan, passing yards per play beyond the APA, 9.2. That's the highest on third down and long in the league. To your point on you're hitting the big plays down the field when you're hitting them more than it's a high conversion rate. It's just that you're really getting some chunk plays in those moments. I would estimate that this is coming from somewhat too on this Poncho, the willingness of teams to be heavy blitz rates on a second-year quarterback in Drake May, and then him punishing him that on those third and longs, because that's what Mike does a lot. He'll get in 3rd and 9, and that's when he'll bring out the blitzes, because he's trying to essentially get the blitz there before the routes can develop to the sticks. But with Drake, he's gonna throw it up there, and if he sees separation, he's got the arm to fit it in there. It's part of what makes it hard on this one is I just don't think Mike's gonna as much go to that instantaneous blitz mode as he would with certain young quarterbacks in that point that are in that 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, like he might have with like a Bryce Young earlier on in the year.
Right. It's a little different, but it's also different than when you're playing the Rams. And by the way, actually, I think the Rams were a disaster on third down when we played them 10 days ago. So even there.
Yeah. Yeah, you did a good job. I think 1 of 8 or something like that on the day on third down. So they were trying to basically get their first down on second down. Second down became their sort of third down to stay out of those third downs. So interesting to see how it goes. Go Hawks, Poncho. Appreciate the donation. Kevin, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, why do you guys think the Super Bowl tickets are so much this year?
Because they can, and people will still buy them. That's how it goes.
It just always does seem like it goes up every single year to me, Kevin, and it gets more and more and more, and it seems that that's just the nature of this beast. I don't have a better excuse or explanation for it other than just that. It's the NFL can get away with, like Brent said, they can get away with paying it. Somebody's going to buy it. That gets them away. It seemed like the ticket prices started to come down a little bit after what they were initially posted for. Like they started to drop a little bit as far as price, where people were like, "Come on, NFL, come on, really?" But it ain't changing anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to go to a Super Bowl in my life, so I respect it. I'm okay with it. I'll live.
I get it. It's their biggest game of the year, so if that's one that they charge those tickets, I can understand it. Kind of is what it is there. Taker 610, thank you for the $5 donation. Taker, appreciate you for that. You'd have to say that due to age, that Myles Garrett would cost less than Micah Parsons, right? If he becomes available, it's 2 firsts in a heartbeat for John.
I don't think his contract is tradable the way that Crosby's is. I've looked at this before. Maybe things have changed. Maybe we have new information. I think Garrett is trapped in Cleveland on that deal.
Yeah, Brennan's kind of touching on this correctly. He just signed the contract last year, Taker, at the start of the year. So he could have made that move last year and pushed to get traded out of town. And instead he said, all right, I'll just sign a new contract extension, which means he's still in the first year of this, which means that there's just a ton of dead money that the Browns would have to eat. And they're right now $10 million negative. We're sitting on $95 million of cap space or whatever. They're negative $10 million in the hole right now without a lot of levers that they can pull to free up cap space. The only way that this could occur for Myles Garrett is essentially he'd have to give money back. But then if he gives money back, he's going to want a new contract for whatever team then trades for him. And these kind of deals are very unusual in NFL history. They maybe happen here or there a little bit, but they're very, very infrequent. So it's just very unlikely he gets moved. He kind of made his bet already with this one. As far as the cost, well, if you're having to give him a new contract extension at what is he now, 31, Brendan, 32 years old, would it still cost you more than 2 firsts? Probably not. But would it probably cost you at least that? Probably.
Yeah, especially because our first is going to be so late.
That's true. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more because our first is so late. And next year's isn't going to probably be looking all that low either for the Browns' perspective. So maybe you even have to throw a little bit more in because of that.
Yeah, I'm not even really thinking about Garrett as far as I'm concerned. That he already basically he's in Cleveland for a very long time, and good for him. But I don't think there's any way you can get him.
If he was willing to give back the bonus money left on his deal, and then he's going to be moved to you, would you sign him to the 4-year, $160 million deal, give up 2 firsts and a third to get Myles Garrett?
How confident am I that he can play standing up in McDonald's defense?
Confident.
I don't know. That's a lot for a guy who's on the wrong side of 30. I think you're pushing it. I mean, I do it for Crosby because he's younger. I would have done it for Parsons because he's young. I don't know if I'm doing it for Myles Garrett.
30 right now is Myles, 30 years old.
Okay, that's not the end of the world, but to me, it's kind of the same thing as Trey Hendrickson, right? It's like you get to the wrong side of 30, you feel like you're going to be left holding a bag.
He is kind of one of those freakish guys, though, that I often talk about where it's like, and I wouldn't say this about Hendrickson, right, as a former third-round guy, that it's those freakish guys that are just uber talented where they lose the half a step, but they're still kind of sub-freakish. They can still kind of maintain, like your Julius Peppers types, right, that played till he's like 36, 37. Reggie White, played till 38 years old. Like these edges that are actually built like that can sustain a little bit of a little bit of loss to their game and still be very good.
I mean, I'd have to think about it just because that might be what it takes to keep the repeat window open, right? Like it might be either, okay, you're doing this trade or you're not repeating.
Yeah.
But that is pushing things a little bit to me.
Mm-hmm. I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot to give out. We're talking $40 million a year potentially for this guy, or just about in there. No, $40 million a year essentially is what you'd have to give him on that new contract. So you could move the numbers around. But that being said, first year cap hit of this year for 2025 was still $22 million. And they moved the money around. But again, like you said on this, we just don't see players give money back. But if you have a contract and you get to go play for a contender, who knows? Maybe he's kind of finally come to Jesus on this one, Brendan.
Yeah, it's also this thing where I got to give up all the draft capital and I got to give him the new contract and the contracts at the top of the market. I got to get something somewhere.
I get it. That's not an easy pill to swallow on that one. So it's a lot easier with the Crosby deal, like you said, because that is a movable contract. And you can, if anything, keep him on the same contract and have him out almost even potentially cheap if you base the bonus the first year of his deal there as you bring him in. So I certainly can understand where you're coming from on that. That's a spicy meatball, as they like to say, on that perspective scenario. All right, let's take a little bit of a look here at this defense, Brendan, and what's going on there. But first, let's do a little shout out to the sponsor of the show. Sponsor of the show is going to be Sleeper, the #1 app running in the game today. They've been so kind as to sponsor us throughout the course of this year. Been very much appreciated for both me and Brendan. And when you use either of our two codes, so when you use my code NEST or when you use Brendan's code, which is
SBN,
they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit, up to $100. So $100 from me and Brendan to you through the app when you use one of our codes, either SBN or NEST. But wait, there's more. Free $20 entry, no deposit needed. That is $120 into your account right now. You think you know sports, you think you know football, you think you know all basketball, baseball coming on up. Pair them together, put your tickets together, go make some money on the back of that knowledge. And please use our code, create that free login entry, as we'd love to finish off this season strong with you guys, really using that code and just put a nice, great big button on this year, as Sleeper has been so kind to sponsor us in the way they have. I love Sleeper because they got more options out there than you'll see on other apps. You got the boosts. As you can see, I put a 20% boost on this upcoming game here for the Hawks and Patriots. I got Myers over a field goal and a half, Kupp over 3.5 receptions, Walker over 21.5 receiving yards, and Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. My man had like 13 last year when we played him against this Mike McDonald defense. Brendan, do you like my picks?
That seems pretty good to me. I don't know why that Walker receiving yard line is so low. Like it feels like in the last couple games, we've really come to an understanding that that's a really good part of this offense that we've not really utilized until recent weeks, but it's been pretty heavy lately.
It really has. I think we're going to use it again in this game and find some ways to get him some of those manufactured touches. So use that code today. Take advantage of that. Got the 20% boost. Get some money in the account on top of it. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. But a big thank you to the sponsor, Sleeper, for showing the love to both me and Brendan here throughout the course of this year. And thank you to you guys for utilizing the code. You guys have been very, very kind on that. All right, let's get over here to the defensive side of the ball and look at some of these numbers here, Brendan, just off the rip here to begin with. This is a Patriots defense that is 11th in rush EPA per play, 9th in pass EPA per play. So they are a very sound defense all the way around, not super vulnerable in either aspect there. Teams are passing on them at the 11th highest rate. A lot of teams playing from behind against the Patriots this year, so not a surprise there. They are 10th in pressure rate and 14th in time to pressure. So kind of a middle-of-the-road team in creating pressure, which is impressive to me, Brendan, because it's not a team that's necessarily loaded, stocked to the gills with a lot of great pass rushers. They're kind of getting by as a collective there as much as anything else.
Yeah, and we have some stuff to talk about there in terms of injuries, but yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it still has been weakened down just a little bit beyond even what it's been throughout most of the year. Not a heavy blitz rate team, surprisingly enough, with Mike Vrabel. Would have thought that this would have been a little bit higher in how it's presented, coming from the Belichick model, especially because they are a little light on that defensive line as far as, true talent goes. But 19th in blitz rate. They're 10th in allowed yak on the good side, so 10th and least in limiting yak. Essentially, they're top third in the league in that. 24th in stack box rate, so they're not stacking the box, and they are second in light box rate, so they are going to leave you light boxes on the front side. 9th in rush inside percentage on them. Why is that? Because they're second in light box rate. If you're light box, teams are going to tend to try to attack you inside because that's where you seem to be vulnerable, schematically speaking, on the front side of it. And they're rushing at the 26th rate to the outside on this Patriots team for those same kind of reasons. What does this data information tell you at first blush here, Brendan, when looking at this Patriot team?
Well, again, and I hate to keep having to go back to this but you take a look at the teams they've played this year, and other than Buffalo, what are the good offenses that they played this season? I'm looking at the list right now. It's really hard to find much of anything else, right? And this is just regular season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Like you look at their schedule and look, I mean, you play who you play, you get through who you get through, but this is not a defense that in my mind has been particularly well tested this season. So the fact that they still have some pretty lackluster results here, like barely top 10 in EPA, I do question them a little bit. I think they've got a couple areas where they're very strong, but I don't really trust their ability to get pressure off the edge that much. And I think their secondary has kind of gotten overrated by the fact that they're just not getting challenged, especially in recent weeks. So I think it's a good group. I do think they pose some unique challenges for this Seahawks team, but I think it's just kind of an okay defense that is completely dependent on staying healthy at all times. Like they had that complete meltdown against Buffalo a couple months ago in a game where they lost, I think, Milton Williams and Robert Spillane, and that was all it took. So to me, they're just they're good, but they're held together very loosely.
Yeah, they really are. It's a team that plays very technically sound on tape. They're very fundamental and disciplined in their approach. You're not going to see them, making a lot of, dumb mistakes. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. They're not going to have bad penalties that they can control. Vrabel has this team on point in that way. He knows how to have his team prepared in that manner where you're just going to have to beat them straight up. And I think that's where, to your point on these offenses that they faced, Saints, Titans, Panthers, Steelers, Dolphins, Raiders, Jets, Falcons, Giants, Jets again. It's been one where you look and there's just not that many challenges across the board. I think they've had 9 coaches that have been fired from the teams they played this year. Head coaches fired in addition to that. It's also a defense to me that doesn't throw a lot of like the Brian Flores troubles that gave us issues with stack boxes, and we're going to run heavy amounts of blitzes. They can't artificially create stuff, that can supersede where their talent's at. And a lot of watching the tape, as I told you earlier, is you'll see them a lot of times in single high, and then you'll see them in two high, but then you're always kind of feeling the safety court kind of creeping up prior to the snap. And it does create a situation where you have your corners that you want to play in kind of zone-based situations. You know, they kind of want to be a cover 3 or even a cover 1, but it's a lot of we want to stay in cover 3 with off coverage with Gonzalez, you know, and that, okay, the safety comes up, your corners drop off, and we're back to some of the old rules like we had back in the Carroll days on playing the cover 3 stuff, right? Where it's in breaking routes, out breaking routes. You essentially attack the coverage inside of where they're trying to drop to depth to take away the deep play. And you're taking advantage of that as long as you can remain patient and just keep taking those solid plays over and over again.
Yeah, it does make some sense to me. And I think one of the big things looming over this game is Harold Landry. Now, I'm not saying Harold Landry is some great player, but he has been their most effective pass rusher this season. He leads the team in sacks. He leads the team in quarterback hits. And he barely played against Houston, missed the game against Denver, did not practice at all last week. It kind of feels like his body's falling apart. And even if he does play in this game, I have pretty serious doubts that he's going to be able to stay in the game and be effective. So that, like I said, I don't think this Patriots team can handle any real losses to their personnel. I think they're just good enough to be solid when they have all their guys. But if they don't have Landry, I really don't know how they win on the outside.
No, I don't either. And I would offer that I think that I was noticing on some of the tape with what I think they're doing with Landry is they're bringing a lot of Jelani Tavai out there onto the edge. And Tavai is a will linebacker. He's not an edge. And when you get looks from a Seahawks perspective in this game, to me, Brendan, of Tavai or Clavion Chason out on the edge, I'm going to have some built-in stuff for Sam to be able to audible the runs to that side and attack those guys head up at the point of attack and show that they can hold up at the point of attack if that's what they're going to do and trotting those guys out there. Because the ideal is not to have Tavai out there at edge. I guarantee you that's a lot to do with trying to get around where you're at with the edge and the injuries to the edge group. They've got some other defensive linemen on IR, not real super important guys, but those guys do reduce down some of, I think, as well, the depth that they have there when you factor into they traded Keon White midseason on top of it all. So I think there's some places you can attack off this edge group to the edges on some of those outside wide zone runs, Brendan. And I got some big questions about the speed of this defense.
Yeah. Their lead linebackers are what? You've got Spillane, and then you've got Christian Ellis. And I think they got Jack Gibbons in there as well a little bit. Not a particularly standout group. And other than Christian Gonzalez, thinking about that secondary, it feels and I guess Marcus Jones, but I don't know how good Marcus Jones is as a cornerback. He's a good return man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's
I what you're saying.
He's 5'8". I mean, that's the problem. I was watching the tape last night, and the issue now is if you old school 10 years ago, you want to rock a guy at 5'8" at the slot, that worked, right? You get away with that. But now with the way teams can, attack in the run game and isolate that guy as a tackler, and then beyond that, you can isolate him with some bigger mismatches at the wide receiver position, where I have a guy that can go up and climb the ladder and get up over the top of him. He's not going to be able to at 5'8" climb up there and get there. And there was watching a couple of games with them in the end of the year here, a few different teams attacked them in that way, Marcus, and saying, hey, you're too small. You can't get up here, especially down by the goal line. If you get a Bobo on Marcus Jones, for instance, like the matchup we saw last week with the touchdown or 2 weeks ago, I would think if I'm Sam, I'm attacking that all day, especially down by the goal line, because he can just box him out like he did that defender in that game and go get the ball. So I think there's some mismatches you can draw out there with that secondary. Gonzalez is legit. Don't get me wrong there, but I mean, Craig Woodson at free safety, Brendan, we scouted him a couple years ago.
I remember him.
Is he
California?
You're
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I remember that a little bit. I think this was last year actually, because this is his rookie season. Wow. Okay.
I think you had a 5th round grade on him, if I'm remembering. Maybe you're a little higher on him than that, but you didn't have a high grade on him, and I didn't either.
No.
To your point with on that one. So it's kind of uninspiring. I'm not trying to knock it, but it's like, Carlton Davis is on his 3rd team. We had last year with him with Detroit. DK smoked him up 10 ways from Sunday. It's one I look at and I just don't see that. Yes, Gonzalez is good, and Milton Williams going, is a problem. But even if people have referenced Milton Williams, they keep referencing of him matched up against Anthony Bradford. But Milton's a 3-tech,
right?
So Milton's going to be over there on Gray Zabel more than he's going to be over there on Anthony Bradford. So even that mismatch that's supposed to exist in this game as some, warning, Milton might take this game over. I don't think he's getting matched up that very often on Bradford.
Yeah. Now Christian Barmore is good too, and he probably will get the matchup on Bradford. So I will say, if the Seahawks lose this game, I think it'll probably be because the story of the game is their interior defensive line. This is probably the best interior defensive line we played this year, with Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, and I'd throw Tonga in there as well. Tonga in there as well. He's been a decently effective nose for them, but really it's Williams and Barmore. I think that's probably better than any defensive tackle tandem we played this season. Because remember, when we played the Steelers, they didn't have Cam Hayward.
Yeah. I'd probably go with Titans, Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat's probably better than
Okay.
if we're talking about just defensive linemen, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'd say the Rams are better too, because the Rams can run Poona Ford. Kobe Turner's going to make every bit of the amount of money that Milton Williams signed in free agency this offseason. And then they've got Fisk that they can bring as a pass rusher as the third guy in that crew.
Yeah, well, the thing with the Rams is if you incorporate the whole defensive line, it's no doubt, right? Because then you're talking about Jared Verse, Byron Young, and the Patriots. I don't really like their edges that much. I think it's a mediocre edge room, but just the interior
starters, you're saying then? Just the starters?
Yeah, well, what if you pull Tonga in and then you've got Poona Ford with the Rams? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I mean, I don't think it's a blowout.
No, but I think Poona's he's a better player than Tonga is.
Oh yeah,
I think that, and I think with Kobe Turner, while people love Milton Williams, I think there's just as many teams in this league that would take Kobe Turner over Milton Williams.
Okay, I mean, I do think the Rams have a better front for sure. The Rams have a much better front overall. I think the interior, it's a little bit tougher, but
it's fair. It's a strong one to your point.
Yeah. That to me is the area where the game can kind of not go our way. Like, what if they stuff the run in the middle and we can't run the ball and we're in 3rd and long all game? So that would be my one area of concern.
I think that's the one nice part to run an outside zone though, too, is that you can maybe mitigate it just by some of your scheme stuff to where you tend to want to attack in the run game, because you'll be running away from those guys to where there's not as much of that impact that they can provide. Milton can certainly get a TFL and sneak into the backfield and grab some stuff, and as you're setting up an outside zone running that way, but maybe that gives you a little bit of a way to get around that. But it's valid. There's not a lot of other ways for this Patriot team to get after you in that manner. So that's as good a spot as any that they got to get you.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out to Chaisson, I think is how you pronounce him, because that's a guy who's been in the league for a little while now and was looking like a bust. But he's kind of found himself this year, and I think he's been a good player for him. Certainly better than I would have thought, but I don't know if he's as good as the numbers indicate that he would be this season, honestly.
No, and at the end of the day, he's got 3.5 sacks, so it's like as a part-time edge rusher role guy that is getting kind of worked in and out there just a little bit. He has found a place, but it's not like he's 10 sack a year now guy like Jaguars.
I think he's got 7.5 this year.
Oh, I thought I just looked it up. My bad. Let me double check.
Milton Williams has 3.5.
Oh, you're right. I was looking at the wrong thing. So my bad. Yeah. So 7.5. No. Okay. Yeah. Legit. That's legit production there. So
yeah. So I still think their edge room is just not really a strength, especially if Landry's broken down. Like, I don't know what they do if Landry can't play in this game, and I think there's a very real chance of that.
There definitely seems to be, as we'll get the injury report here today on a little bit of clarity with that. But when you look at this Patriot team for how you want to attack, give me, what is the basic conception you operate off of and what you want the offense to be doing?
I would say I definitely want to attack that secondary. I usually don't say that with this team, but other than Gonzalez, who can be had, by the way, he's not, Deion Sanders out there.
No.
Yeah, I do want to be attacking that secondary. I think that there are some things you can do back there, especially if they're doubling JSN, which it sounds like they're probably going to have to for a lot of this game. I think there's plenty of damage you can do throwing the ball. Like you said, I want to challenge their speed. Maybe this is the game for Arroyo. Maybe he can get a speed mismatch on their linebackers and make a play down the field. We'll see if he's active or not. I think I would start there. I would definitely be a little bit cautious about running an A gap and B gap a lot in this game, just because I think that their interior is pretty strong. But I think you can challenge them to the outside a little bit. I'd love to get some outside zone running in this game, some pitches, some misdirection stuff with Shaheed getting jet sweep opportunities. I think there's some stuff going on there. That's kind of what I'm thinking about for this game.
I am as well, and I wonder if you're in the same place I am. We've got no Zach Charbonnet in this game, and I was doing some research, Brendan. See if you're picking up a little bit of what I'm putting down here. These are the top 10 most attempts for an individual running back in Super Bowl history. And when you look at all of these, Brendan, from John Riggins on there, Terrell Davis, Larry Zonka, Franco Harris on there, 9 of these 10 guys went on and won the Super Bowl. They were on a Super Bowl winning team. And the one guy that didn't is Eddie George, who came a half yard away on the Rams and the Titans game at that time. And the reason I bring this up is because I look at that 27 attempts mount and I go, I got to get Walker to 30 touches in this game. And if I can get Walker to 30 touches in this game, that just feels like a magical spot to really feeling hyper confident that we went and got the win. And that I think this team's got the commitment to run that much. This is the week to use him in that way, to the ultimate to me. But I'm riding Walker until the wheels fall off in this particular game. How about you? And do you feel like this is just a random stat that it doesn't really apropos to this? What do you think about it?
Well, I do think that it probably reflects the fact that your team is playing from ahead if they're giving the ball to the running back this much. But that being said, I still think it's a very good idea to give Walker the ball a lot. He is playing the best football of his life right now. He is, even against that Rams team where he couldn't really get anything going on the ground, I still thought he played a really good game. I don't know what else he could have done. So, I want to get him the ball a lot because I think he's great, not because I think you're guaranteed to win if you get your top running back a lot of carries. So, I don't want to misread that data and say, oh, this is the key to winning, when I think data like that is more like the result of winning. But I would say I would like to see Walker get a decent number of those touches on catches, more so than just straight carries. Obviously, a lot of that too, but I want to get him the ball in the screen game because I think that's something that's been really effective for us lately.
Yeah, that's where I come to and say it's, to me, 30 touches. I do think that it's one where it's, if you're at that point, it's easier said than done sometimes, but some of it's a little bit of just the commitment and remembering that. I think that we've done a great job of that offensively, so I don't think that that's going to be challenged in this game, and suddenly we forget to be running the ball. But this is one where I would use him to the ultimate as I could in this game, because I think there's a lot of room to attack. And as you said, I just don't trust that defensive speed of the Patriots on those outside zone to be able to get to the spot in the same kind of manner. And once you get him going like that, the play action stuff now works to the ultimate. And you can really kind of mitigate some of the passing attempts. And once you do that, to me, you're mitigating one of the few ways this Patriot team can go and get a victory. Because if they don't get any turnovers in this game, if they got to work off of long fields in this game offensively, I think that in itself is a harbinger of the fact you're going to get the win. I think if you allow them a short field here and a short field there, and then they can intermix their rushing attack and control the time of possession, that's how they go out there and get the win there. So just all the much more to me to try to lower down a little bit of those passing attempts in this game, because I think you can find effectiveness in running the ball. And I think then the passing attack can be maximally effective because you're not in a hyper volume approach either.
Yeah, it's the formula that the team has had for most of the year, right? I mean, Darnold's near the bottom of the league in pass attempts.
He is. So it's just stick to the blueprint, bro. That's all I'm saying here. Stick to that same blueprint that you've been putting out here throughout the course of this year. Don't deviate from it here. Shaheed, get him some touches, like you said, cut those misdirections, get the Patriots flowing defensively one way, because you got to figure they're going to be very concentrated on trying to get to the first, running plays going an outside zone run. Oh no, we're doing a fly sweep back the other way like we've done with Shaheed a couple of times. Would love to see those worked in a little bit as well. Is there anything else offensively speaking that you want to see as a point of emphasis in this game as a means to attack?
Well, like you already kind of mentioned it, but we've got some big slot receivers to go up against Jones. So that's something to hit. Like Cooper Kupp is 6'2", JSN 6 feet flat, and that's still a mismatch on Jones. He's like you said, 5'8". He's tiny. And also maybe he's a guy you can test in the run game as well, because he is so small. Is he going to be able to hold up as a run defender?
Yeah.
So
I want to challenge
that.
So a little bit more, maybe 3 wide receiver looks to draw them into that nickel look then, off the back of that a bit here and there?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I want to get Jones on the field. And we don't know if Oots is going to be available in this game, by the way. McDonald talked about the neck injury and said it's got to calm down. And to our knowledge, it hasn't calmed down yet. So we might not have Oots. And if we don't have Oots, then there's less incentive to get into I formation, because I don't think Brady Russell's very good.
You activate Elijah Arroyo?
Well, you didn't do it last week, and Oots was out last week, or last game. So maybe, I guess, I mean, Amari Kite got put on IR, but he wasn't active for the last game either. So who's coming off to put Arroyo in?
It's a good question. Do you take a Peely and don't have him active for this game so you can do that? And then what's the plan of use and attack? And I certainly think that this is a linebacker core that you can get after with some of the stuff as far as them in coverage in that way. But, it's this would be an interesting time to try to trot him out there. And I'd estimate that he's probably going to be inactive, and the team will go with some other directions on this, though. It's an important part of this game, of course, Brendan, as we learned in the last Super Bowl, who's inactive, who isn't, which positions you're going light at, which you get
I need to step away for just 1 second. Could you just go solo for a moment, please? Thank you.
100%. So it'll be interesting in this game. It's one of the least talked about spots that you get with these kind of matchups is in the Super Bowl, having the right players active and then the right number of players active so you can deal with an injury to certain spots if it comes up in the game. Seahawks got bit on this when it came to the last Super Bowl because you're walking into that with a bunch of corners and defensive backs beat up. Ken Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, all of them had major injuries prior to you walking in the game. And then you decided to have Marcus Burley be inactive for the game. And then you have Jeremy Lane get injured after intercepting, of course, Tom Brady, goes and tears his ACL on the interception return. And now you're down to Thorold Simon having to play in the slot, and Thorold Simon was a pure outside corner. So there's going to be a little bit of that part into this game from the Seahawks perspective of how to quite balance off this roster precisely to make sure that you got enough reinforcements for the ranks if you happen to sustain an injury or two through the course of this game, which could affect that tight end position and whether or not you have Arroyo active or not. So,
all right. Sorry about that. We're back.
You're good. So just talking in regards to, it's very important to the fact of thinking about which positions you want to have the reinforcements for if you get injury, referencing back to a little bit of that Marcus Burley, Thorold Simon situation in 2014, where you went light on corner. You already knew you guys were beat up going to that game. You got to be careful at it in this game. I think about in certain position groups here, making sure you got enough guys to be able to run your scheme in full.
Yeah, I think one of the big fears you have for this game is if something happens with Walker and then you've got Halani and Akers or Bayless Jones, that could derail your plans a little bit.
That definitely could. And that's definitely one of those worry spots that you have in this game with, Walker getting through healthy for a full game, because you need his difference making element. To me, he's really one of the big key factors, X factors in this game for you on going and getting that win. And him, and I also have Shaheed too as well, because I do see with Vrabel being a guy cut from the Belichick cloth where he's going to try to probably roll some of those doubles JSN's way. And then that's going to free up other guys. And, isolating those guys with mismatches like you were able to do last week with Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed gets the press coverage. You and I have been talking about it weeks prior up to it. Shaheed gets the press coverage. One safety rolls towards JSN. The other safety comes down in the box. It's a very now easy read for Sam. Your guy's going to get the win on that. Take your shot down the field when they give you those opportunities in this game. I'd love to see that again from Sam if they do. I don't think the Patriots will do a lot because they protect against the deep stuff pretty good. But if they do, and there's a cost to doing business if you're going to double team a wide receiver to one side of the field, especially if you want to bring that other guy up there to squeeze on those shorter routes, got to be looking for those opportunities if I'm Sam.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's going to be there for him too. So I don't know. I like the matchup. I do think this Patriots defense is good, but one thing that we didn't mention yet is that Spillane, their top linebacker, also did not practice all of last week. So they've got some other issues as well. You've got if you're losing Spillane and you're losing Landry, that I don't know what they do. I think they're in massive trouble then.
Yeah, I agree. They just don't have the ability to overcome it if those guys aren't good to go on that, or just heavily limited. I mean, is Landry anywhere near 100%? Is Spillane anywhere near 100%? I don't think that Will Campbell has been at 100% since he came back off that pretty major injury he suffered right about halfway into the year. So it is something to kind of track and monitor on this one. Roy Froelich, thank you for the $5 donation on Brendan's side. Says, do we spend a day 2 pick on a running back?
I think we do. One thing that I will say is this is a pretty good free agency crop of running backs. So you
Mm.
could get somebody there like Brees Hall, Rico Dowdle. I think Javonte Williams is a free agent. J.K. Dobbins is a free agent. The Najee Harris is a free agent. There are guys that you could go get in free agency that are pretty good. So maybe that's the way you go, but I think we'll draft one.
I'm kind of on to where Brennan's at on the front side of this, Roy, in the respective. Some of this is a bit of the anticipation of what you're doing with the Walker. And, if Walker walks, the chances of this increase exponentially. But I tend to think they're not going to let Walker walk. And I think that then what you're probably going to do is try to probably go find a veteran guy out there that you can add into the mix with Walker. Because there are some decent names out there. The other part of this to me, Roy, that informs this is that the running back class isn't that great. I've got 2 guys with second round grades or higher in this class. And then I've got a couple of third round guys in there, but they're not like, they're fine. They're kind of run of the mill third round kind of running backs. They're not, true difference makers in that way. So if I'm John looking at that, I go, I'll find value at a better position there in the third round or second round if I'm picking there versus reaching for a guy, which would be a bit more reaching for need at that point. And so I think you probably take care of business on this on the front end. Maybe John drafts a guy into day 3 somewhere a little bit and tries to target a guy in there. But I think otherwise you're going to probably try to sign a guy on a low end rate because of where the class is at. Just doesn't quite feel as strong to me. The Penn State kid broke his foot at Senior Bowl, Brendan.
I heard about that. That's brutal. That's not even
Oh, that's tough, man. It is. Yeah, it's just, and he needed that kind of Senior Bowl to solidify himself. He's probably more 4th, 5th round guy now. It's light. It's light. The Washington kid from Arkansas has got those. He's another one of those Arkansas running backs with super long legs that just, the changing of direction when your legs are all that, it's kind of hard sometimes. And there's some good guys, but nobody that really elicits a lot of excitement or anything close to what you get with Walker or Charbonnet at the position right now.
Yeah, I like the Jadarian Price guy from Notre Dame, the power back to Loves. He would be fun in the third, but there's so many guys in free agency. I don't think it's going to cost that much either because it's kind of a buyer's market, right? If there are more guys available, there may be less money spent.
And I do have a Jadarian Price third round grade as well. And yeah, I think you're touching on what I think is the important part of this is that you want the value to be correct. Is the value better spent on a low cost item that you get in free agency who will give you almost equivalent talent to the guy that you're probably going to draft in the third round, albeit that guy will be younger and cheaper a little bit? If the answer is yes, then go for the guy in the open market because you've got the money to spend. You're not in a position right now where cash is the problem. It's more of allocating the resources right. And I think in the third round there could be an interesting, or second round even, there could be a much more interesting guy. There could be a real high floor cornerback in the second round who could be an instantaneous starter out there with the other 2 guys you got in the mix, who could give you an improvement over a guy like Job. I think that's going to be a little bit more of a draw from a Seahawks perspective than taking it back in this draft at this time with where the situation's at.
Right. And there's always like one good running back that slips through and you get him for like $2 million.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There's always one of those guys out there. And if you bring back Walker, especially, and you between a Charbonnet and a McIntosh, you go, well, one of those guys will come back at least to give us something a little bit in there. And you've still got a whole on that you can bring in one other guy. I think you can do it through the collective at that point and you'll be just fine. Especially with a guy like Charbonnet. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of the year, but he's probably going to be back a little bit past halfway into the year, I bet. I wouldn't guess it's going to be a full year. He's completely robbed of being able to play at all.
Yeah, and hopefully he comes back and is still able to do all the things that he did before.
Amen. You never know for sure on that side of it. Anthony Sandoval, thank you for the $2 donation, Anthony. Can you see this team win back-to-back even if we lose people?
I mean, when you look at what we're going to keep, I think it's on the table. I think it's a possibility. It's really hard to do. I will say the team this year has been mostly fortunate with injuries, especially now. We are very close to full health at this moment. And like you think about the 2014 team. The 2014 team absolutely should have repeated, but they were completely decimated by injuries in the Super Bowl. And then during the Super Bowl, things got way worse, right? Like there's no getting away from the possibility of having a season derailed by that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of variance here, but sure, this team is capable of doing it more so than most teams that win the Super Bowl, probably.
I think Brendan probably captured pretty accurately where it's at right now. You have, to the last point he just made, you have a better opportunity than most Super Bowl teams that will be entering into this territory. Third youngest roster in the NFL. You've got over $90 million to spend this offseason. You don't really have any major free agents that you're necessarily scared to death of to lose that you can't replace. You're almost able to bring back every single starter on both sides of the ball next year if everything fits to form and how we think that this will go. So you throw that all into the hopper a little bit from my perspective, Anthony, and you go, yeah, that's absolutely a team that can go back to back, because those teams that can't go back to back are the teams that get decimated by free agents, or they get old and their window closes. You look at the Eagles last year. What did they lose? Brandon Graham retires, and you lose Milton Williams out there to free agency, and then Josh Sweat heads out to free agency, and they lost one other guy. I can't remember on that defense, Brendan, that I'm spacing on, but there was one other.
Well, the real loss was Kellen Moore, more so
Kellen
than any
Moore,
of that.
Yeah, that definitely hurt them as well with it. But those teams always tend to suffer those kind of big losses and not be able to get back around to it. You're not going to. You've got the ammunition to even stock up further. You could theoretically make your team even stronger next year by the resources you have to work with, because let's not forget, this team ate $80 million of dead money this year. They've been that's taken off their roster to players no longer on the roster. They get that back essentially next year. That's where all the cap space essentially comes from on this. So 100%, Anthony, we can do this again. We got to get the first one first. But this team, like Brendan just said, is as well situated to be able to do it as any recent NFL team in NFL history.
Right. And I think the main fear is just the edge rushers. I'm really concerned about the edge rushers next year. That's the one area where it's like, I don't know if we can find replacements. And there are other things too. If we lose Woolen, that is a loss. And as frustrating as Woolen can be from time to time, he has had a phenomenal year in coverage. You're not going to get a guy anywhere else that is that good in coverage. Maybe you can replace him in the aggregate, as they say, but you're not going to get somebody that good. So,
no.
Yeah.
There will be some things to overcome, but it's not going to be you're not going to have to go up Mount Everest to get this thing figured out. There's plenty of moves and plenty of ways they can move if they want to kind of get around some of what they're going to lose. But yeah, Anthony, you better believe it, man. They can absolutely make it happen. Work to be done to get it done, but it's there for the taking potentially if John can have another offseason like he did this match another offseason like last offseason. Absolutely can do so. And I will say this about the edge group, Brendan, like DeMarcus Lawrence, much as I love what he brings, replacing these guys, baseline hasn't exactly been set tremendously high for the necessity of replacements.
In some cases, yeah. In some cases, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, baseline for replacing Woolen's a problem, but you're right.
I'm talking about the edge group. I'm the edge group. I'm just the edge group. Woolen, yes. Woolen, 100%, yes. Just the edge group, though. This is a group that, yeah, you generate a lot of pressures, but you're one of the slowest teams in the NFL at generating pressure, number one. You're not getting many sack production, any sack production out of that edge group at all, number two. So I kind of look at it and I go, yeah, it tends to be one that in free agency, I can go find a guy that can be a 8 sack a year guy. And that guy's going to be a pretty big, remarkable improvement over what I've had in Boye and Derek alone, say nothing of Uchenna. So it's like, is that guy break the bank?
Uchenna's a tough one because he started the season out really well, but it feels like his body's just given out.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see Uchenna get back to where he was, and he'd be a vital part of this into the future if he could be back to the player he was, or even that 5-game role that he gave us early in the year. But it's been now well over 2 years since we last saw that player at this point.
Yeah. Earlier this year, it was good. I mean, there was a moment where it felt like we had Uchenna Nwosu all the way back, but now he's just he's out there. He's still, I think, holding up decently against the run, but he can't finish plays anymore. It feels like every time he gets close, he just falls down.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does kind of just feel like it is the case. Well, let's get around to talking. There's not a ton here with the special teams on this side of it. They're passable special teams wise. Marcus Jones is a pretty good punt returner. Kyle Williams can't seem to get on the field as a wide receiver for them, despite the fact they've got Mac Hollins out there starting for him. I don't think that was probably ideal for them when they drafted Kyle Williams out of WSU.
Wazoo guy. I remember him.
Yeah, he's the Wazoo guy. We both liked him. But I do see this as a special teams advantage to the Seattle Seahawks pretty universally. I think we got a better place kicker. I think we got a better punter. I think we got a better kick returner, better punt returner. I think we're better at defending the punts and defending the kicks. All the way around, we're better. They're not a bad special teams team. It's as much of how great a special teams unit we are. You feel the same?
Yeah, that seems about right. I don't think there's anything other than Marcus Jones. I don't think there's anything particularly stand out about their special teams group, but it doesn't seem remarkably bad. Kind of an anonymous special teams group that doesn't lose the game, but doesn't necessarily win it either. I mean, I go back to that Denver AFC Championship game. Their punter tried to blow the game. Behringer, he had that one punt that went like 13 yards and almost handed Denver points, but Denver, being Denver, could not take advantage.
No, they couldn't. And I know they couldn't. And their kicker right now, 84% on the year, 8 of 9 on 30 of 39 kicks, 7-11 on 40 of 49, and 4 for 4 of 50-yard kicks. So it's been a little bit of the shorter one, the 40 to 49s. They can give him some issues out there, but still, I think Myers a little bit bigger leg, a little bit more consistent this year in what he's brought. So we come down to the bottom line on this, Brendan, where it does feel like as we discuss this game, you and I are in a lot of agreement in that we see very few pathways for the Patriots to win. You feel like, from what I'm hearing from you, not to put words in your mouth, that you do feel like, as I do, that we are better in all three phases of what we do, offensively, defensively, and special teams. So we get down to the bottom line on this, and that is that where do we land on the score and how we see this game playing out?
I think it'll be close at first. I think the teams will feel each other out a little bit. I'm going to go with like 30-20. I think that eventually, as the game goes on, the talent discrepancy goes in favor of Seattle, and as the game goes on, eventually that's just going to add up to a decent win. We've been doing this show now for 5 years. I've never really predicted a blowout because I feel like blowouts just don't happen in the NFL enough. So I'm not going to do it here. I do think there's a pathway to winning in a blowout, but I think that Patriots team is not going to make the kind of mistakes necessary for it to be just a complete wipeout. But I feel like this team is just better, and I feel like that we're going to see it on Sunday. That's really the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I think it sounds like mentality-wise, you're kind of in the same place I am, where there's very much a draw inside you to predict a blowout, and you're like maybe me, and not, you're fighting a little bit against that urge. Like, better. That Vrabel will have this team ready to play. They're not going to make mistakes and shoot themselves in the foot with unforced errors. But at the same point in time, as we break this down in every direction, it's very hard, isn't it, analytically wise, to look at this matchup and not be driven that way. I don't even think it's biased. I don't think it's homer eyes. I think this is the way that this game does look on paper, and why so many people are universally putting Seattle as the team that is going to go win that Super Bowl. People were mentioning the first Patriots team, like, oh, this is the first Patriot team, that went and took on the Rams, and it's because we're trying to look at comparisons. And that Rams team that had, of course, won a Super Bowl the prior year, then came back, so they were the heavy favorites. But then you even look at that Patriot defense, Brendan, that brought out there, right? Teddy Bruschi, Richard Seymour, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy. I mean, they had some guys on that roster. Willie McGinnis. I mean, those weren't just. I look at this defense, and I go, who are the equivalent on this defense of those guys? Those almost Hall of Famers or sub Hall of Fame type players. And I don't see it. And it makes it hard not to be leaning in that direction you just talked about, which I'm not going to predict a blowout either. I'm 27-20, 27-17, your 10-point win feels about right. But boy, there is a draw in me to get super overconfident here, and I've been having to tap my brakes all week long, Brennan. All week for the last 2 weeks. Just, okay, hold them. Yeah. Careful here, careful here. Don't get too confident, but it's hard, man.
Yeah, I have friends who are neutral fans. My best friend is a Bears fan, right? My other best friend is a Dolphins fan. They both look at this matchup and they're like, the Patriots got no chance. Like this is from a neutral observers. They don't take that Patriots team all that seriously. I think that there is a tremendous belief that Denver should have won the AFC Championship game. I think there's a belief that a healthy Houston team probably finds a way to beat New England. And not that the Chargers were ever healthy this year, so it doesn't really matter, but a healthy Chargers team probably beats them. And they look at how bad New England has looked offensively in the playoffs against good defenses. May in particular has been a train wreck with the turnovers. And what I can say is that these neutral fans, these fans of teams that are far removed from the Seahawks and Patriots, they look at this matchup as being very one-sided. So I think that when you got to go to something like that and you look at that and you go, there's probably some truth to it. It's not just coming from me or you. It's coming from people that have very little at stake here.
It really is. It's just, it's tough to do that. I even saw something yesterday, Brennan. It's like every bit of information you're getting, like, oh, well, Drake May's shoulder doesn't practice for the week, or Landry doesn't practice the week. Here's the latest one I got yesterday. The Bills come in and you mentioned the Bills game where they gave it to him 35 points in week 15, come in on the Patriots, hang 35, win the game. The Bills bring out in that game, Brendan, a heavy amount of one certain coverage type. Did you hear this about this yesterday? Coverage
I have
6.
not.
So coverage six. Cover 6 is quarters to one side, cover 2 to the other side of the field. So it's a split field kind of coverage. They brought out a heavy amount of that to the Bills that week. Completely gave Drake May fits. So every opponent after that kept trying to do the cover 6 there through the rest of the season, even opponents in the playoffs. The problem is you'd have teams like the Ravens that don't run a lot of cover 6. So they're trying to essentially do something that's outside of what is their identity. Guess who runs some of the highest proclivity of cover 6 in the entire National Football League?
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. That's exciting to hear. So the key is we got to get pressure with 4. As long as we do that, I think we're good. So
100%.
Whatever guys like Uchenna Nwosu have left in the tank, now's the time. And I know Nwosu has been mostly ineffective as a pass rusher for the last couple months, but anything he has left, now's the time. DeMarcus Lawrence is about to turn 34, but whatever you have left, it is time to deploy it. I'm not worried about Big Cat or Murphy. Those guys do their thing. Those guys get pressure like few other interior linemen. But we got to find a way to get pressure with 4. As long as we do that, I think we're okay.
100% agree with you, man. And you're going to be able to run them fresh, and you're going to be able to, unlike New England, who's dealing with guys where they got will linebackers they got to bring out there and eat up edge reps. You're going to be able to bring out your starters, your backups, keep guys fresh through the course of this game and rotate them through, which just means all the much more you go like a bat out of hell on every single snap, which you ain't going to have to tell these guys. They're going to know what time it is, but you're going to be able to do it as well because you've got that depth you can call upon throughout the whole game to keep them fresh and keep them hunting strong in that manner. So We've got to win for both me and Brendan on this one. Brendan's 10 points. I'm 7 points, but I could be talked into 10 points. Peter Go Hawks finishes off with a $2 donation. Thank you for that, Peter. It says, bold prediction. Levi and SoFi will be ours in 2027. Like the sound of that? The sound of that. That'd be pretty nice. It's Rams next year, right? Super Bowl next year.
It is SoFi next year. That is one thing about this game, though, that I will say. I do not like Levi Stadium. I don't like that field. I hope that doesn't end up becoming some sort of equalizer. I do not like playing on that turf at all.
Yeah, it's not, and I don't like the stadium in general anyways. It's kind of a lame stadium. There's no juice to it. It's just sort of like a facility that sits out in the middle of nowhere out there. But hopefully we could be a bit prepared to play on that. We'll know the surface, the right cleats in this, because we play on it a bunch. So maybe that'll be a little bit of a built-in advantage. We'll know how to deal with the substation. You got that hum in your ears and how to just play through the hum, that electrical hum that's cooking through you. We'll know how to deal with that part too. The players talk about. So, hopefully that'll get around that. Taker 610, you guys so kind with a couple donations here, more here at the end. Thank you for the $5. You know what? 52-10. Darnold, 4 passing touchdowns. Walker, 3 touchdowns. Like it, man.
I mean, it's a nice idea. I don't know if New England's going to make the kind of mistakes that are necessary for something like that. Like, I watched a cut up of Super Bowl 20 the other day, which was, of course, the 85 Bears versus the Patriots. And that's what it takes to have a blowout like that. And you watch that game, every time Tony Eason or whatever his name was drops back, he's got guys right in his face immediately. Like, that's what it takes to force a game to get to that kind of a blowout level. And I don't know if we can do that.
You're right. Or even just our Bronco game, literally had to have the first snap of the game hum over the top of the head of Peyton to start setting that ball rolling in that direction to go get you that blowout.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this for sure. I would certainly be plenty happy with a 52-10. I will take a comfortable win. I don't need this to be a close game at all. I'll be very
No.
happy if we can go blow this team out.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not ruling anything out. I do think that it is a mismatch. What I would say though is that I think the way the Patriots play football doesn't lend itself well to getting blown out. Like, I think the thing when you think about Super Bowl 48, it was kind of a matchup of finesse versus smash mouth, right? Because the Broncos were all offense. They had a mediocre defense. They had no Von Miller. They had no couple other guys as well. I can't remember on that
Derek
defense.
Wolfe.
Yeah, Derek Wolfe. They were a finesse team. We were smash mouth, and you saw that element of the game just kind of take over, and that's why we won. This Patriots team, I mean, I don't think they're smash mouth, but I do think they have a pretty credible defense when it's healthy. And I don't think they're just some like team that is completely dependent on the passing attack either, the way that a team like the Broncos in 2013 were. So I don't feel like the formula is there for this kind of a blowout, but you could win convincingly.
You could indeed. I mean, I do see that there's a pathway to getting that done. I think that's well situated. I think that's fair too with the way they play. They're a little more under control. It is a little less finesse. A lot of that Bronco team was working off up tempo and just trying to kind of tire teams out with the up tempo stuff throughout the course of games. Patriots are not going to necessarily try to operate from that manner. I do wonder a little bit with Drake and his tendency to F it, I'll throw it. Somebody's down there somewhere. Kind of, he's kind of gotten away with it at times this year with some of those throws of just kind of tossing it up. If you do that against this defense, if we can make him pay the price for that. But I love it, Taker. Hopefully we can be up around that score. I'll definitely take it. Rob Ben Dixon, thank you for the $10 donation over on Brendan's side. Says, thank you for the game coverage this year. Go Hawks.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated, man. Thank you, Rob. It's been a tremendous, like Brendan said, we've been doing this for 5 years. It's been my favorite year in being able to cover this team, Brendan, and my favorite Seahawks team, just period. And how that this thing has come out to be, but it's been wonderful being able to have an opportunity to work with you these years, and kind of feels like we've gotten a chance to really earn this by having all those kind of tough years getting to this spot of it, where it just feels extra satisfying. I don't know from your perspective, but to get there off the back of being like a little thirsty in the past couple of years.
100%, man. And we should be doing it again next year. I don't see why we wouldn't.
Absolutely, guys. We'll be back cooking up full throughout and into the off season as well. No doubt about that. Industry Worth, thank you for the $2 donation. Good to see you in the house. Really appreciate you. He says, don't you ever forget. Don't you dare do it, folks. Go Hawks. Definitely go Hawks out there. Well, Brendan, we will, and thank you for that donation. We will be back in a week, folks, here to hopefully be celebrating the Seahawks. Brendan, are you going are you going to do the parade if they do a parade?
I was at the last parade. I was. This one, I'm not sure. But I was at the last one, and it would be kind of nice to be able to say I went 2 for 2. But that time it was really random. I was working at Facebook at the time, and their office was right next to where the parade was going by. So I was like, "Hey, can I clock out for a minute to go check this out?" And he was like, "Sure." And then I just disappeared for a couple hours, and no one cared.
Well, I'm gonna try to get up there if I absolutely possibly can. So I'm gonna be shooting to get up there. If you get a chance, I'll reach out to you. Maybe you can come down and say what's up with me down on that end of it. But we will, regardless, we'll be getting another show up here next week and breaking down this game, breaking down the Seahawks team, breaking down this season. And we'll be going strong here through most of the off season here too, as well, with free agency then just around the corner, Brendan, within about a month from now. So we'll be right back up on the horse very quickly after the season ends. But that's the benefit of playing into February, isn't it? That's the nice part about being this deep into the season.
And, if things go the way we want them to, we are not going to have a lot to talk about during draft season because we're not going to have very many picks. But good problem to have in this case, I would say. It's not always, but this time I think it would be.
Especially for this draft, Brendan, because I went down to that Senior Bowl and whoa, Nelly. You know what I'm saying? Like it was...
we got problems.
Good. It's not the draft to have 2 first-round picks like the Rams do. I'll just say that. It's not quite the good one on that. Peter Go Hawks, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, think the Pats take the ball if they win the coin flip? No, I think they kick.
I think both teams probably want to start on defense.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Maybe the Patriots would start on offense because the offense is kind of the better part of their team, but not by a radical amount. It's not like the Rams, right? The Rams want to start on the Rams want to start on offense because they're an offensive team, right? It made
sure.
sense why the Rams took the ball first last time. But even the Niners, man, when we played the Niners in week 18 this year, they started on defense when their defense was completely destitute and decimated. They still started on defense.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, you want to get the 2 for none at the end of the half, but maybe New England would start with the ball. Maybe.
You touch on it. I think just most coaches default to I can get a 2-for-1. I can steal a possession potentially at the end of half by getting the ball back at halftime. I can end up having a game where I get one more extra possession than that opposition did. And that's a huge advantage to win in football games. And so I'd be the same way if I was a coach. I think the only thing that could maybe factor in is if there was some wind. So you're choosing the wind rather than who gets the ball first. But I don't think that the wind's going to be as big a problem based on what we're hearing weather-wise there in San Francisco. So probably the Pats choose to kick off, and Seahawks would do the same if they win the coin.
Yeah, Seattle would definitely kick. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Slam dunk.
They've done a really good job this year at Seattle on stealing those possessions at the end of the half, haven't they? With Sam and company. They'll go and get that like 3 points and then come back and get a 7-point after halftime and really give you a little bit of those swings sometimes in that are just so nice, especially in these tight games. Well, folks, if you could do me this favor, please hit the like button, whether you're on Hawks Nest or Seahawks Brendan Nelson, hit the like button, sub up on either end over that. Please, if you're on one to the other on that side of it, as well as please do use that code this week, NEST or SBN for Brendan, either of those two codes on Sleeper app, and you'll get that match up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100, helping us out, showing some love to the channel at the same time, and call that a win-win-win-win. Brendan, it's always been a great pleasure doing this with you. It's been most especially fun this year, being able to cover this team and being able to cover everything that's going on, and a team that's great, man, and on the edge of being maybe the greatest team in Seattle Seahawks history, maybe potentially even an all-time team when we look at this thing historically speaking, but that's, of course, something for us to kind of turn over into the offseason.
Right. And we are getting a little bit of breaking news here. Well, okay, it's like an hour old, but I don't think we talked about this specifically. Jay Glazer has reported that Crosby will be traded this offseason. Like, he's pretty darn positive about it. So to anybody dreaming about Max Crosby, let it be known that he's probably going to get dealt. So at the very least, we got that going on.
He's in play, and not a surprise with the Raiders shutting him down at the end of the season. You can kind of see that this was where this was going to go as they realized their mistake probably at the deadline. Now it's just a question about what they can get, and is there going to be a bidding war? But we'll have to see about that in a couple of weeks before free agency. I'm sure we'll get a little bit of resolution on that one. Really appreciate all of you folks watching today. I think at one point or other we almost got up over 500 folks in the chat here today. So thank you guys for checking out both of our channels and riding with us throughout the course of this year. Let's see if the Seattle Seahawks team can finish the deal. Can they put the final chapter in what has been a storybook season? The 2 trilogies, the 4 interception game from Sam, the Vegas having you at 7.5 wins at the start of the year, and nobody think you could get here, and everybody counting Sam out, to now what you've been able to attend, what you've been able to ascend to, where you're on the edge of completing a process towards, well, we'll just have to see this Sunday if they can get the deal done. But boy, we're feeling confident. If you guys can't sense that from us, in a lot of ways, it's been hard for me trying to look at this game and not keep my feet on the ground, Brendan. I just keep finding myself floating on up. You know, I'm having to keep it like, somebody grab my leg and pull me back down to the ground here. Keep my feet firmly footed, because boy, I just keep looking at this game going, I think we got it, man.
Yeah, it feels like it's in our control, right? It's up to us. If we play our game, we're fine. If we don't, then anything can happen, but it feels like we are in control. It does.
Well said. Like Mike says, it's all about us. And he's been consistent in that message. They believe it. They live by it. And I do believe what you just said is absolutely the truth of this. It's about us. Execute what we are, fit to the blueprint. You will be a Super Bowl champion come Sunday, regardless of whatever the Patriots do, flailing away at you, Brendan. Do what you do. Operate in what you know is that blueprint that's been so successful. And this is going to be a win, and probably, to your prediction, a comfortable one at that. Mm-hmm. Folks, we will be back next week. Please, again, hit that like button and sub on up. But beyond all else, we shouldn't have to remind you here with the team on the edge of winning a Super Bowl. We shouldn't have to remind you with the team on the edge of maybe starting out a dynastic run, but we're going to do so anyway. Don't you ever forget, don't you dare forget, stay locked in here throughout this weekend. Please remember, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.